Right. Yes,
You got some? Okay. Oh, and we're live, we can see them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so we're good to go ahead?
Yep.
All right, okay. All right, we're back. And I believe we also have a different amendment to the agenda to remove item, what is it? D, under unfinished business, consideration to approve revised employee handbook. That we move to a later date.
Yes. I'll, motion to amend the agenda as presented to remove item D under section 8, unfinished business, consideration to approve a revised employee handbook until such time as the members of the commission have a chance to review the final edits and changes requested during the work session.
Seconded.
Okay. Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Dylan Olson,
Yes.
Catherine Salisbury,
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Tracy Dancer.
Yes.
Okay, next, the consent agenda. This would include the approval of appropriation ordinance number 1386A, expense approval report, the approval of the minutes for both the special meeting on June 2nd and the regular meeting of June 3rd, 2025. May financials, the request to pay for Earl's Engineering, EEI project number 24-414, Horton Street. Final approval for the revised ordinance number 3781 fireworks discharge. And additional item that we discussed earlier, approval of fireworks stands licenses for multiple entities. I would entertain a motion to accept the consent
I
agenda.
have one question or
sure.
two. So I see AMS is on here again.
We'll get reimbursed from
We're getting
ADM.
reimbursed again. Do we have a contract in place yet?
Yes.
We
Yep.
do. Could the commission receive and see that?
Yep, I can send that to you.
Yeah. Did we receive it? We didn't,
No,
right?
I'm
Okay.
requesting that we
Okay.
could receive and see it.
Okay.
You'll receive $240,000 back from ADM once we bill them for that. Our equipment, our rollers are on that, plus the payment for Horton's on that also. That's why it's so high.
I would move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Dylan Olson,
Yes.
Catherine Salisbury,
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Tracy Dancer,
No.
Tim Van Hookey.
Yes.
Okay, we will now open the floor for public comment. Do we have anyone signed up?
One public comment.
Oh, okay.
I think,
Thought it was under the agenda.
okay, I think actually if it's Ms. Dancer, she's going to speak on an item later. Thank you. All right, since there's no one signed up, we will close the public comment. And next we have appearances.
Lisa, Tim can't see anybody. I don't know why that's doing that.
No.
Tim can't see.
Is it because it says executive session in private?
Oh.
No, that's not showing up. It's just the main on the right there. First appearance, yep.
Oh, okay, I'll call Corey. We have Corey Briers with Care to Share Progress and Survivors. Welcome, Corey.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Commissioners. I think I have a mouse up here, right? Okay, right here.
Oh,
So where am I clicking?
Second from the right.
Second, right there.
Mark?
So Commissioner Van Hookey, I don't think you can see this. If you can, great. I know you're a great supporter. And the reason I'm here tonight, Commission, is to share partly with you all, but I know all of you are supporters of Care to Share, and you know what we do. But I had stated a while back that I wanted to show you what our intake volunteers do and the extent and scope of what we're doing for our communities. And now that Lisa has the computer back running, we're good to do that. So it's just going to be a real flash and dash, what I want to show here. I also want the community to see it, those that watch. So we have this little spreadsheet, and we've got several volunteers, and we all logged last time we were in, so we each sort of can see what the other's doing. This is Debbie West. She makes some notes that, and this is dated because I prepared it a month ago, and we scratched out most of the names. Anything that you're going to see should not give away what our fighters are doing or who they are. So, but we all get in, we make our notes, and then we log, keep a history, because we're not all the way up to like a Salesforce level database. We keep a history of what's going on. So every one of these X marks is a human. It's a name. It's someone fighting cancer. And we track what we're doing for them. And then the C history means that this is only the last month or so of what we've done. And you'll see some that are long, even within the month or two. And then we'll all get further down and we capture that whole history of their entire cancer journey once they've started with Care to Share. So I'm just going to scroll through, and I'm almost done with what I'm doing. But every one of these is a name that is currently active and getting some level of support. And you can see this is a person just in the last, since April, and this is only through late May, all the interactions that some volunteer had with that person and all the treatments or diagnoses or checkups they had to go on. So there's just, this is someone that we know. Every one of those X's in a green box. And I think we're probably down into 20 or 30 pages. It totals in the pushing 100 numbers, 100 names that are active. And then we make this copy down here, and you can see this is what happened for this person in the course of whatever it is, probably 4 to 5 months. And that's the scope of what we do. And I wanted you to see it and get a little feel for it like I do, and I'm in here every day working on it. So as much effort as we put into it and as much support as you all give us, none of us are fighting what these people over here are fighting. So thank you for letting us share.
Thank you, Mr. Byers. Okay, and next we have Taylor Bailey with consideration to approve as a Fort Scott Library Board member. Hi, Taylor.
I did not bring any presentation or send one ahead of time. The only thing I would say is I would like to be a library board member because I've used it since I was a little kid. I see a bright future and I'd really like to be a part of it.
Our library director could mention that at our board meeting the other day, the board was unanimous in our approval for Taylor. We think she'd be a wonderful addition as well. I think the only reason she had to come tonight is because of a situation that we had previously where letters were falsified and sent in, and so we wanted to make sure that it was a real person and not just a bunch of fake letters this time.
Wow.
And so I apologize that you had to come down here, but thank you so much for your
I
willingness.
promise it was a real letter. I bought stamps just to say.
Thank you. Awesome. Well, thank you. All right.
So
Does anyone have anything else?
I just want a motion that the board, if y'all would right now, that we go ahead and approve Taylor to be added to the library board.
I'll second.
Catherine Salisbury,
Yes?
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Tracy Dancer,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Dylan Olson.
Yes.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Ms. Taylor.
Thank you for your time.
All right, next we have Corey Witter, with Cub Scout Pack 114, regarding the street closure for Soapbox Derby. Welcome.
Good evening. Okay, so new to this, so bear with me. We are asking for the street on Horton to be closed from Circle to 18th to hold our Soapbox Derby July 5th. It starts at 8. Yes.
What time would you need it? 7 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay, so the cones and everything be out there. So what this will be is be blocking off from Circle Drive to 18th Street. 18th Street will be blocked off with hay bales because that'll be your stop. That'll be your, don't go any further point. We've talked, this is part of the Independence Day celebration. They weren't able to do it during the good old days, so we thought it'd be a really good opportunity to have it on Horton Hill, going from Circle Drive down to 18th Street. Should be really fast. So it'll be a great event for the Independence Day activities, and should go to about 2 o'clock probably.
Yes.
Does anyone have any additional questions? for
So
her?
when you say 18th will be closed, that'll mean
18th will not be closed.
18th and say turn left on the
18th,
Horton?
18th won't be closed. It'll be to 18th.
But will it close Horton on 18th? So can you not go through 18th?
You can go through 18th, yes.
That's for July 5th.
Yes,
So hay bales will be set up before 18th Street?
yes, right there, just right by the intersection.
I would move to approve the street closure of Horton Street from 18th to Circle Drive
Yes.
for July 5th. Time, the specified time, I'll leave up to the city manager.
May I ask one question? Do we need to approve the closure for the trial runs on the?
I was going to talk about it later, unless you want to do it right now.
Just if we wanted to do it in one
I
motion?
think it's 20, what date was it?
28th.
28th, from, what'd I say in the email? It was early. I told him to start early.
Yeah.
9 to 10:30,
So I would,
It's 8 to
8
10.
8 to 10, okay.
I would amend my motion to allow for the street closure of Horton from 18th to Circle Drive for June 28th and July 5th for times under the discretion of the city manager.
Now, they will not have hay bales for the practice. so
No.
I've already told one person that. They said they'd figure it out.
I'll second.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Tracy Dancer,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Dylan Olson,
Yes.
Catherine Salisbury.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have Mark Bettis for the 2024 Cape Seal Program. Welcome, Mark.
Good evening. Yep, my name is Mark Bettis. I also have Lee Hendricks and Donald Luxon with me tonight from my office. We were the contractor that did the work last year. I met with Brad and Tom earlier I guess it was in May, but looked at the work, and I'm just here to address address the concerns of the project and issues that we had, and try to come to a resolution with Fort Scott, and be a good business partner, and we want to work with the city again, and don't want to have anybody with a bad taste in their mouth for the project we did, and so we've been working down in southeast Kansas and the eastern part of the state for many years, and it's important for us to have good relationships with the customers we work with. So some of the concerns the two concerns that I'm aware of in our meeting a few weeks ago was the rideability and noise from the chip seal, along with the inconsistent fog seal. The scope of work was a chip seal with the fog seal over all the streets that were on the map. So the issues were the noise and the rideability, along with the inconsistent fog seal. Is Is that all the concerns that you guys have, or were there others?
No, I mean, my main concerns were going back clear to September the 26th, when the job was being done. Saw the aggregate that was being used, and it was clearly outside the scope of KDOT and our specifications. The dust was massive. The size of the aggregate was not within what it should have been, so that probably leads to the drivability and the noise, because the stones weren't the right size. It should have been a 1/4 inch to 3/8, and you had chunks in there that were as big as 3/4 inch. They were way outside the specifications. But the main issue, of course, is the massive amount of dust that was present. And unfortunately, the contractor that was here was made aware of that on multiple occasions, and they kept putting it down. Like I said, clear back to September 26th, it was noted to that contractor multiple times. I had requested, through our city manager, made a call to him to put a stop work order on the whole job because of the aggregate that was being put down, because it was so far outside specifications. So as you can see, I'm sure you've been around town, you've seen everywhere, because of that dust, none of the emulsification stuck on that top fog coat. Everything's failing everywhere. It's flaking, chipping. I've got lots of pictures if you want to see that when the days they were shooting that top coat emulsion. Unfortunately, there was so much dust that the emulsification was just making a mud on top of there, and never got to attach to any of the rock or the aggregate that was present in.
I'd like to have Donald Loxon speak on that
Okay.
topic a little bit, if that's okay with you guys. He's our quality control manager.
Yes.
Hi, welcome. Could you state your name again, please?
Yes, my name is Donald Logston. I work for Bettis Asphalt Construction.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Back to, I guess as far as I've looked at, I've done two things. I've actually came here and looked. I do have pictures also of what it is now. In regards to your specification, that threw me off a little bit. What was your specification for the gradation of the material? We were told it was CMK,
According to the contract, it was supposed to be done according to KDOT specs.
which is CMK.
Yeah.
Okay, which is, I think there was provided in through, was it Earl? There was a letter generated by an engineer who had, I'm assuming there was 4 gradations attached to that. Okay, those gradations I actually personally ran. Those, you are correct, did not meet specifications for CMK, but not as an oversize, as an undersize. So it's actually smaller.
No, and it does address the massive amount of dust, but there
Well,
were,
and I'll get to, and I'm not
Yes, sir.
despairing
Yes,
that,
sir. Yes, sir.
that on that same gradation, they were anywhere from an average, there was 4 done, the average was a 96.8 between the 4. The average is, or the spec is 98 is the lowest tolerance. We're not despairing or disregarding that there was a dust issue. The issue with the road noise and all that, that is based on what size the aggregate is. Those did not show, or very minimal showed any 3/4 on the 4 that I ran, which were the 4 that was given to me is called stockpile. I don't think anything was run during production as far as, I know that there was an additional one that I think the engineering company ran that was like spoils that came off that showed some different, but that was the material that was the over excess that was placed and then swept off, is my opinion of what that was.
that sample, and we have photographic evidence on that as well, was pulled straight from the pile that the company that was here was loading up their trucks with to go out and put on the roads.
Okay, I mean, that
Yes,
I
sir.
don't know.
Yes,
I was
sir.
told that was sweepings.
Yes, sir. I understand.
And-
Yes, sir.
And and that's the case. I don't know. I'm just saying at that point is where it's at. So as far as the indication that you are correct, we did not meet KDOT specs. But I guess what everybody needs to realize is that CMK does have 3/8 inch and actually permissible can have half-inch aggregate in it.
Yes, and, yes, I understand that. It was
Is that
three.
clean or dirty aggregate though?
No, it's still at 80. Or
Because
it
the,
should be
the
at
main
bottom.
issue was you had essentially dissolved rock in there and then the fines got washed away and you're left with the road that doesn't have an actual compact chip seal.
Well, I have pictures of this was done, when did I take this? Last Tuesday. And there are pictures that show adhesion through the roadway that looks, this appears to be a chip seal that has been adhered to the roadway. Now, I will tell you that I also have pictures of these that do show where the fog seal had not adhered to this. But it does not look like the chip seal itself is off the road. The fog seal has failed, and it is primarily because of the dust. We're not debating that. As far as the road unraveling, I didn't see any, and I looked at approximately, where's the sheet that you had given me? I used it to cheat on. So I looked at Liberty Bell, 12th Street, Clark, Crawford, Sunset Drive, and 23rd Street. Those are the only ones that I looked at, and that's what these pictures are coming from. I didn't look at all of them, to be honest. They all showed they all commonly looked the same. In my opinion, the chip seal's there. It does not look very well. The fog seal is gone and has made areas of splotchiness. But the actual seal of the road looks like it's in integrity. There are spots that show open that are up because yes, there was too much dust in the mix or into the aggregate itself. So as far as the road noise is going to be inherent to what the material you have. You do have a 3/8 inch rock. I do actually have little. So what we used, or what is supposed to be used, is this material, which, as you can look, does have, this is actually a blend that is exactly what the specification, the minimum specification. So the specification calls for 3/8 inch material. There's 15% in here. And then if you go through, the next one is the number 4 sieve, which is the next sieve down. There's exactly, or roughly, 70% of that material. And there is dust involved, and there's dust that should be in it. You've got 2%. So this, if you want to look at, that's fine. It does show that there is big rock. So that will cause your road noise.
Yes, yeah, no, I pulled samples from every road when they were dumping, and that's where I found 3/4 inch stone in there. From the samples that we did, you can see our engineer report, we were over 8% on the dust.
Oh, yeah. Which I don't know. I know the samples that I got, the highest was, I believe, 96%, which would have been 4%.
Right.
This is actually, I did a demonstration because this is what the average of the 4 samples that I did. I built a mix that shows that. So it does show that there's a very decreased amount of anything bigger or 3/8 or bigger that's in it. Which would indicate, though, that would actually make your road noise less than would have been if it was at specification. I can't comment to anything above the 1/2 inch. The samples I took, I didn't have any. I don't know the samples that you ran. The one that he had listed in his letter, does anybody have that one? I don't know. Do you have that one, Mark?
See, the one that was in his letter.
So basically, even less than what that I show on my 4. Because mine was, the average on mine was 8.6 on the 3/8, and his is actually smaller, it's 3. But there isn't anything oversized above that on the one that your guys' engineer generated. Now granted, yes, he does show a lot more dust than I show in mine. I don't know where this is as far as that. But I guess where my point is visually inspecting this, I don't see that the chip seal has actually failed or has unraveled any more than any normal. I mean, you are going to have some unraveling on when you lay this because you lay emulsion, you lay rock across the top, it all doesn't stick. There will be sweepings. But as far as totally looking at the roads, I honestly do not see where the chip seal has failed anywhere.
You know, to comment on the dust, we've gone through some cycles and weather pattern here. And, you know, there's no dust visually right now, which is drastically different than when we did it. You know, and what you're speaking to sounds like it was. It was bad.
Oh, it was horrible when they would dump it down with the trucks. Dust clouds would be wafting across the city. I've got videos when they would run through with the broom machine and just massive clouds that would hang in the air for hours, dust traveling 4 or 5 blocks, covering people's cars, to where we got reports here at the city. You can check with our city manager. People were calling saying, who's going to pay for cleaning my house and my car because of the massive amount of dust. And that was just from them trying to sweep up, because they realized at that point, and your representative on site fully admitted that, yes, everything was outside of the specifications, that there was way too much dust. He said that had he been here the day that they started putting it down, he would have stopped them. But they had already put down a coat on all of the roads of that bad product. And then he spent the next, I don't remember how many weeks, trying to clean it up, wash it. Can't tell you how many pumper trucks he ran up and down that one road trying to wash off the dust, but it was just too much dust. And so what we have, you can say it's not a failing of the chip seal, but every road is falling apart. You can go out there and rub it, and it rubs right off. I mean, I've got pictures of where they sprayed the emulsification and it was just mud. And as soon as it rained, it just washed off down into the ditch.
So I guess what
Yes, sir.
just for that point, so that is the emulsions, the fog seal is failing, but the road itself is failing? What you mean by unraveling, I guess, is, I'm just trying to get a clear.
Right. I guess what I'm saying is that the surface damage that has been done to those roads, the only way I can see to fix it, and I'm not a KDOT engineer by any means, I'm just going off of what KDOT engineers have told me. The chip seal will have to be completely redone on all those roads. There's no saving what was done. It either has to be ground off and redone, or the roads have to be milled. So, I can understand what you're saying, that the original chip seal layer down on the bottom is still holding there?
The chip seal is holding, and it's, I mean, you can kick the chip seal. It's not falling apart. It's the fog seal that is, that's blotchy. But the chip seal on every single one of these pictures is intact. It's adhering to the existing surface. I mean, that's what a chip seal is going to look like.
We've had
You
chip
know-
seal done before, and it did not look like that at all.
Okay, for the sake of efficiency here, could we, since we have definitely a difference of opinion, I don't know how far it is to travel in here, but I would like to propose that maybe you guys have a field trip together or something to go look at some spots. Would that work? Or, via the phone or something like that?
That'd be up to our city manager.
We did go out and look at it, and I remember going out with you, and we were able to take a knife and chip it up. It doesn't do that now. I
No.
can tell you that, because I went with Mark and Tom about broke his knife trying to chip, because I told you I had to chip that thing up, see what, and we couldn't do it. And so what he's saying is right, but when we didn't go through every road, I'm sure if we go through some roads, there's going to be bad spots that are starting to, whatever you call, unravel. I can tell you on Crawford Street, there's a bad spot. One spot, I'm not sure, but I'm sure there's more.
There's a couple bad ones out on Charles, there's a couple bad ones out on 23rd. I mean, the entirety of the chip seal has not failed, but the damage that was done to the roads by the and I call it unspecified
By the gradation.
aggregate, by the gradation, has ruined the roads. You tell me how you can fix it.
Well, that's what, I mean, we're here wanting to make it right. We feel like the chip seal, we feel like we came in here wanting to, the remedy would be to refog seal all of the roads. And that would adhere to, will clean the roads and apply fog seal to all the roads, and that would adhere to, there's no dust, when you drive the roads. We would sweep it, but I don't think we're going to sweep much. We're not going to sweep much. There's no dust to sweep, and the fog seal should stick. Do you see any reason it wouldn't?
Oh. I mean, I have not seen any unraveling. Now, granted, I only looked at, 6 roads, which I tried to look at the major ones.
Right.
So for these spots that you're referring to, is this, I'm not a road person, but is that something where you could apply Cape Seal in a patch before you do the fog seal? I'm just wondering how that works.
No, they could do according to KDOT specifications, they could do what's called a sandwich at this point.
That sounds
It'd be
awful.
An additional Cape Seal or an additional chip seal with the proper aggregate over the top, and put a whole new layer of chip seal on top of the chip seal. And that is something that in the KDOT manual, they would be willing to accept. But
Okay. Is it,
I'm not so sure I'm willing to accept, simply because all of these issues were brought to your site supervisor before the fog seal was put on. When things could have been repaired before they put 4 or 5 layers of fog seal on some of the roads. I mean, it wasn't just one layer. I'm sure you know.
There was a couple times, I was
By the amount of-
told there was several areas that we double.
Oh, they more than doubled
More
it.
than that.
On some roads, yeah, they did 4 or 5 coats to get it to what it is now. And so,
That was because it wasn't adhering to the existing chip seal, or to the new chip seal, correct?
to the dust, yeah. And as the roads are driven on, and I'm sure you've seen that on every road you've looked on, it continues to flake off, peel off everywhere on every road. So what I don't see is how a new chip seal on top of what's already flaking off is going to stop it from continuing to flake off.
you mean a new fog seal?
Yeah, a new fog seal on top of there is going to stop it from flaking off, because it's flaking off everywhere. There's not a spot that you can show me where it's not flaking off.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing
Yes, sir.
with that. I guess I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So this is a fog seal, which is just an emulsion just tack oil basically that's put on. It's an aesthetic. Is that the purpose of what you guys were wanting? Because you keep referring to Cape Seal, and that, what we did was not a Cape Seal.
Okay, well, it was supposed to have been a Cape Seal.
No, it was,
Your letter was a conventional chip and seal with a fog seal. So-
That's what Circle C did also. Same exact contract.
Now, how did theirs turn out so completely different?
They used a different, they did not use CMK. They used a different aggregate, which is a very smaller based aggregate. It appears to be a chat rock, I'm not certain, but the gradation is, so a gradation for that, this is not as to spec. This is as close as I could come to it, but it's about what it is. It's this type of material. This is chat rock, and it's, I don't know if the gradation is completely the same, but it is this size, is roughly what they use, which is very smaller compared to what was specified for us to use. So therein lies a big difference, especially to your road noise and everything else, because this lays different. I'm sorry. This is conical, it's crushed aggregate. This is chat, which is more flat, more elongated, which lays flat. So
this is not an approved KDOT material for chip seal.
for chip seal.
The product chip that Circle C used was not. Is not able to be used on a KDOT job.
As per what the specification says, it's either CMK or CML, which is lightweight aggregate, which is expanded shell. They have the same gradation band, which is a bigger product than what Circle C used. So that would in turn with the road noise, and that would be different just because of the nature of the material.
Okay.
But I guess that was part of my question was the fog seal. The fog seal is an aesthetic. Based on the manual, the chip seal manual, a Cape Seal is a completely different material or a different application. It actually uses an emulsion that is a slurry seal, which is emulsification plus plus basically sand. That gives you a higher, denser friction. It's either sand or a chat material to give you some friction. But it's they're two totally different applications. So that's all I was just saying.
Yes, sir.
Everybody keeps saying Cape Seal. And
Right, because it's our Cape Seal project, and
Right.
that's our understanding, again, because none of us are road guys.
Whoever wrote this, just basically, the first sentence is the city is taking proposals for 2023 Cape Seal program. The city is referring to Cape Seal as to the process of traditional chip seal with a fog coat finish over the chip seal application. So if you look at, that's what their definition of the Cape Seal is, which
Okay.
isn't KDOT's definition.
Right.
Okay. I appreciate your time. Does anyone else have
Sorry,
questions for you?
I guess where do we need to keep talking about this at a later date, or, I mean, I'd like to get a resolution. I mean,
Right.
we have not.
We're gonna have to come to a resolution. We're gonna have to come to something because
Do you want to meet out there and we can look at it?
I'm happy if it's okay with our city manager.
Brad, what do you suggest?
That's fine with me. I think it would be a good idea, so we can get this thing cleaned up and figured out. We've got too much stuff going on.
Okay.
So meet with you, and then can we come up to an agreement, or do I need to come back to one of these meetings and
I mean,
get a
I'd like.
resolution?
I'm only one commissioner. I just
When,
happen to be the one that.
When could you be available for that?
For a meeting?
Yeah, to meet and.
I'll
go
make
over
myself
and view.
available whenever.
Okay,
When it comes to the roads, I'll make myself available whenever.
okay.
All right.
I'll get with
I
Brad
will-
and we can coordinate a time.
All right.
Endeavor the same.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate you, gentlemen.
I guess just to clarify though, we're gonna meet and we still need to come up, I don't want to, we don't want to do any remedy without.
Oh, no, sir.
no,
yes.
yeah.
No, we need
Getting
a,
some consent.
yeah.
No, I was planning, our city manager will facilitate like a meeting for you guys to look at those things, and then we'll also consider something else at a separate time to make a resolution.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, next we have Tom Kaufman with a Public Works update. Hi, Tom, thank you.
How are you guys?
Good.
I'm Tom. Been here since 1999, so seen a lot here. We put this little presentation together, are we gonna put that up, or are we gonna go through this thing?
I will just go through it.
Okay. We consist of 2 mechanics. They work on everything here, within the city. So it's police, fire, whenever they get a chance. Our brick crew consists of the 2 members. They're doing well. They're getting some stuff done. There's always room for improvement, but they're doing their best, and that's all I can ask for. Two members on our pothole patching crew. Like I said, last year we did a lot of them. This year we're, as weather permits, doing the same thing. Maintenance team, this is a new one. We kind of seen a little spot where we were lacking as far as ditch cleaning, culvert replacement, stuff like that. So we created a maintenance crew. I'm pretty excited over that crew. I hope they can get a lot done. Bucket truck, we have 1 member in there. He's responsible for a lot of the lights, your street lights, except for the ones that Evergy owns, of course. But Scubits, ones downtown, the banners, stuff like that. And then we've got 2 project teams that we created. They do the major projects, a lot of intersections. We're hoping to get in the asphalting and stuff like that. They'll probably merge together, and we'll probably all be as one at some point. Needs, or the street sweeper, I guess. So we're just taking turns in the street sweeper right now. So right now we don't have much, a lot of leaves on the ground, so we just kind of do it as needed. The needs that we have is probably 1 mechanic and probably 1 laborer to go with our bucket truck person, possibly. A lot of times safety, groundsman, it's always going to be, hey, watch out. We've been caught up there on the bypass putting, the banners up there, and I mean, it's crucial, to have somebody on the ground. So, next page.
Tom, is that 15 employees plus you?
Is that 15 employees?
9, 12. There's only 13 with him.
We got 2 mechanics, 2
2,
brick
4,
crew.
6, 8, 9, 12, 13.
Currently,
Yeah.
but if we had a full.
Yeah, if
Well,
we
you got 2
added,
project teams of 3
we
members
added-
each. That's 6.
Yeah, 3 members. Yeah, 3 members each. Sorry.
yep. You're right, 12, 13. 6, 10.
2, 4, 6,
15,
8,
sorry.
9,
14, 15.
15. Okay. Okay.
Pothole patching, as well as I do, that's a big job. I mean, them guys, we go spot them, we send them out there. Last year, we did, Brad, I remember that comment. Brad couldn't believe that we done 400 potholes last year. We went through at the end of the year, we counted them up, and that's pretty much what we had. So them guys stay pretty busy. Next page, brick crew, like I said, same thing. They spot them, we paint them. They go in there and fix the depressions and stuff best they can.
Are we catching up on the potholes? Or are they?
I don't think
they
we'll ever
popping up
catch up
faster than
on the
we can patch 'em?
pothole. With all the rain we've had, it's been very hard. It really has. There's only certain times we can go out and actually do the pothole, and we try not to do that in the rain because it'll wash the emulsion out. So, brick
Plus,
crew-
depends on what kind of winter you have.
Sure.
If you have
Yeah.
a bad winter, you're going to have a lot of
That makes
potholes.
sense.
So, brick crew, like I said, same thing. I mean, we're working on it. We'll get them up to par where they should be here before long, I'm sure. Parking lots, we did a couple. already this year. We did the gravel ones that we were sitting on, the one next to the, it used to be the Stout Building. We've seen a need for parking. We just kind of threw parking blocks in there at one point, and everybody used it. And I think if we do some shifting around, we might be able to squeeze a couple more parking spots in there. So haven't really decided, but I thought it looked great. I think people are using it already. We haven't even got the parking blocks up yet.
Is there any drainage on that lot?
It goes to the center of the alley where they had redone that, and it all goes one way or the other. I can't remember. I think it goes towards the Wall Street side, but I can't remember. Because that one, if I remember right, they did a lot of work on that one. They had to move all that electrical underneath, and that's the biggest thing, getting that stuff away from your buildings and everything else. So, the next one was the one on North National, which used to be, I don't even remember what used to be there.
Is it at the laundromat?
Yeah, it was a laundromat, that's right. People were using it anyway, so we just finally decided that I think we could probably we might be able to get 30 spots in that thing. So I'm real excited to start on that at some point whenever we get that planned out. Intersection repairs, we kind of started on that. Let's see, we did 12th Street.
2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago. We started there on 12th Street. Of course, then we had the big water blow up, so we had to replace the whole thing. But we kind of started there, and then we seen the need for it. You know, I still feel that if we do intersections, even on these brick streets, it's going to keep them bricks locked in, and it won't roll them near as bad. So I think that is probably a great thing to try to do as time permits. But we also have a lot of other projects we're going to try to get done also. So, is there anything that I missed on that?
Nope, you're good.
Okay. Ring Pond, that's another one of our, after what happened last year, you know, we kind of had a real bad mess up. But, you know, this year they put about 8,000 fish in there. We had I had the water guys come in and they fixed the little 2-inch line. We've got plenty of water, but this takes it down, and I don't think we'll lose the section like we did before. So it'll always have fresh water on that other side, keep the fish healthy, and hopefully we get a pretty good, I mean, this is all done through the state. The state pays for all the fish for sure. He's going to try to help me get a grant to redo the rearing pond at some point. But we'll kind of see what happens on that. Rock Creek was another one of the projects we had over the winter. I think this one's on a frequency of every 3 years. We have it inspected, and there's certain things that the state wants us to do, which is this one was pretty much cutting all the big trees from the dam. You know, if we had a big windstorm, it would pull the tree rip balls out, and it would probably, our dam would fail. And so we have to take care of that. So that's what that project was. We went to the back side. We kind of rolled that out a little bit where the main part of the dam was, and then made it to where it was a little easier to get to the river for the kayakers and stuff like that. So that'll be an ongoing project for sure. There's always something that goes on there. Oh, good Lord, I forgot about this one. Event assistance. Yeah, good old days, Christmas on the Bricks, the city events. We help Care to Share set up their stage most all the time anymore. Road closures, the banners that get put up. I mean, you know, we do quite a bit for them. The electricity for good old days, you know, we spend probably 3 or 4 days just getting ready to do that a lot of times. So it's a full week a lot of times. And then the cleanup is usually, you know, 2-3 days. But, you know, that's just another thing we do. Christmas tree setup, we do that every year. We try to take care of all the lights on the on all these buildings and everything. Fire department helps a lot on that too, so give credit where credit's due, of course. But my favorite this year, flood traffic control. We've had to have those out many, many times this year. The water just, we're saturated. I bet y'all have one tonight probably. So anyway, we do the same thing there. We try to keep people safe, keep them out of the flood waters. You know, just if they'll stay out of there, a lot of times they'll move our cones. Major street and culvert washout. This was down at, this is actually one of kind of a retention pond that the city had put into effect years and years ago. It's down off Happy Hollow. So Loman kind of comes down. It looks like a driveway, but it actually is city property. Used to be Mrs. Goddard. But anyway, Belinda called me up and she sent me some pictures, and that's what they were. I mean, a big giant sinkhole. And we figured out what the issue was. We went in there, replaced some culvert, and got her back in there, and it's flowing great. I mean, it's doing what it needs to do.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to picture, that's the end of Loman, like when it drops off like it used to be?
Yes, off of Wall Street.
It
Where
was
the
a
zoo
zoo
used
when
to
we were
be.
little kids? Okay.
Yeah, where the zoo is.
Yep, where the zoo used
Just
to
wanted to picture it, thank you.
be. And let's see. Other items not listed. Alley work, that's part of my maintenance crew. They're going to work on that. We do a lot of that stuff in the winter, but here lately it's been every other week, it seems like. So the tree work, trimming, you know, removal, we try to keep on top of them as best we can. Downtown banners, I mean, she's got a schedule. We have to put certain banners up at certain times, and it keeps that bucket truck guy pretty busy. Downtown light repairs, we've already kind of discussed. The street light repairs, which traffic signal, we also take care of them here in town and on the bypass. Culvert work repair, like I said, we've kind of touched on that. Parking lot repairs, we've got a lot of city-owned parking lots. They are in disrepair. We're going to work on them in the next, I'd say, probably 2 years?
Couple of years, yeah, we should be
years.
caught up by then.
So, paint line striping, I know we haven't done it this year, but we also do that. Or just parking lines, street striping, same thing. I mean, stormwater work, waterways, culverts, you know, all our underground. We had one right up here. We didn't know that years ago, Evergy, or not Evergy, it was Westar actually drilled one of their poles right into our storm drain, sitting in the middle of it. So once they pulled it out, we had to go in there and repair it. So it was underground. And then FEMA assistance. We've worked pretty close with FEMA to try to on the disaster stuff, you know. So other than that, I mean, do you have any questions for me? Trying to make it short and sweet.
You guys do a lot of crack filling too, don't you?
Hey, Tom, I don't have a question, but I have a comment. The stuff you guys do does get recognized. I was out with some folks on a Saturday night and was approached by a citizen that said he'd had an issue with his alley, and that you guys got out there and took care of it, and he was very appreciative of it and wanted to pass that on to me, and so I want to make sure I pass that on to you and Brad.
Oh, that's great. Appreciate that very much. Yeah, I think I remember the one you're talking about. There's been several, but a lot of utility cuts that go on. We just don't hear about them, and then whenever they do, we just try to take care of them as quick as possible.
I think it's important you guys hear as much of the good as you do, maybe stuff that folks think ain't so good, and like I said, he was very appreciative.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that a lot. I know the guys will too. I forgot about the equipment purchases that we've done so far this year. As you know, I think last time I was in here, I asked for the 4 dump truck. Well, yeah, I guess that'd been a while ago, but so those are due to be built next month, and then hopefully we'll have them late August, early September, so we should be ready for next winter, or if we're hauling asphalt, I mean, either way. We did purchase a rubber tire roller, a steel drum roller. There's a stump grinder, bought that local through a R&R tractor over here, and we did buy a truck for yours truly. Needs, we're looking for an oil distributor truck. I don't know how far we'll go into it, if we'll ever do chip seal or anything like that, but kind of first step. I just knew you'd do that. But, and a salt, dirt, and rock storage shed of some sort, because a lot of times we're in the bottoms and we can't get to any of our dirt right now. It's probably gonna be a month before we can even get there, so. So that does put a little bit of hindrance on some of the projects also.
Okay.
Especially when we're trying to get to our clay pit to build our bases and stuff like that.
I did have a couple things, if that's all right. One, I just wanted to say there was a cut across on Horton near the JUCO, and you guys fixed that. And I just want to say thank you, because Presbyterian Village made me aware that that was distressing their residents when they would ride over it in the caravan. And I said something to Brad, and you guys got it fixed like in a day. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
And, yeah, great. And then Brad says that you're probably going to be working on the entrance at Gun Park, doing like pothole patches, so.
Yeah, we're gonna try to do pothole.
If it ever quits raining, yeah.
We've got a plan for that, I think, that'll
know.
happen hopefully in our 5-year plan.
I know that would make people that try to ride motorcycles through there very happy, so thank you.
Definitely.
All right, and then I just had a general question for my own understanding, and I don't know if this is for you or for Brad, but Rock Creek is outside of our city limits, and I'm wondering, is it because it's part of our water supply that we do it instead of the county? Is that why?
Correct. We take care of the water and surrounding, the dam and the surrounding areas,
The
yes.
city owns a chunk
Some
of property.
of the property we do, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted
Some
to,
of it's privately owned, some of it is city owned.
is that the part where we
And,
screen?
well, it also, the water from the lake goes through to Rock Creek into the river.
Okay. I just wanted to understand, thank you.
And that is the other thing, we also do take care of Fort Scott Lake Dam also. I mean, that's all of city property also.
You
right
mean
up
the
in
water
there.
slide? Yeah, that.
The water slide.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. for
Thank
everything
you.
do.
Do we take care of any of the roads out there at the lake?
We take care from the entrance to the second, this would be on the west side of the road, to the second driveway, going into the little pavilion. The other side, we used to go all the way, I think we still do, there was a road that kind of came out of Scorantino, but the city had sold those 2 or 3 parcels. So I don't know how that's gonna work, but, yeah, we owned all the way to where it came back out. I think there used to be a little gazebo and something else right there, I think where Jingles Endicott bought.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
that's where we go out.
We go all the way out there.
Yep.
So yeah, actually, I think a lot on our plate.
I didn't see it on here, but you guys do a lot of crack filling too, don't you?
Yeah, right before the Cape Seal and stuff like that, and anytime we do an overlay, we'll probably do that again. So that's just on overlays, you know, if we're mulling it up, I mean, there's no point, but, you know. So we used to have a pretty strict program. We'd go and seal up next to all the curb and guttering and stuff like that. Anything that we'd have dry summer, a lot of times them gaps would get 2-3 inches wide, and we just try to fill them up the best we can, keep the water from getting underneath there. So, but we're gonna try to get back into a lot of that stuff. I think we're heading in the right direction. I really do. So,
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much.
thank you
Thanks,
guys.
Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Okay, and finally, we have Mary Wyatt, Jody Love, and Justin Miles of discussing the business retention and expansion survey results.
Well, it's just me, Jody, representing HB Cat today. Justin had something come up at the last minute, so I'm taking on some of his piece today. We have a handout and the slides. Are we able to show these on the screen?
I don't have.
There's not a lot of people here. Well, I won't go through the whole presentation anyway. We're short on time, I think, anyway, so it'll save us all. We did a business retention expansion survey 5 years ago, and we did one again to be able to compare and see where we're at. This time, the city of Fort Scott was gladly welcomed participating with us. And so Justin and Mary went out and talked to face-to-face about 6 different businesses to gather, those in-person feedback on where they're at with their businesses and to kind of contribute to the overall story of our survey here. We did get 34 responses, which was a great response for us. It was reflective of the industry and sectors that we have in the community, so we were really excited about that. It's a little lower than what we got 5 years ago, but I think that we've seen some decline in businesses since then, so I anticipated there to be. I'm still very happy with the number of responses we got, that it reflects the industry, and it actually represents those businesses 450 employees. So in general, the respondents reported there's about the last 2 years, a quarter of them saw an increase in workforce. About 60% saw no change. Some factors that contributed to recruitment and retention issues were, some of the things that's not a surprise to any of us: childcare issues, housing, poor work attitudes, low skilled labor, reluctance to move, those types of things. One of the things that that my board thought was surprising and that caught Mary's eye was that 73% of respondents report that a problem with recruiting and retaining unskilled and semi-skilled workers. And you think, we got so many people. Why is that a problem? Well, we have a community health worker in our office, and she reports that it's not a surprise. Because, there's childcare issues, there's housing issues, and there's only 2 employers in the entire, Fort Scott area that will employ somebody who doesn't have a criminal record. So that's all contributes to the problem with workforce. So, location and expansion decisions for businesses. A lot of businesses choose to stay here because it's where their roots are. It's where their families are from. It's a central location. A lot of our rodeo guys, they come here for school and they stay here because it's in a central location. It's on the intersection of 69 and 54, and they can pretty much get to anywhere. Let's see. 3/4 of the businesses moving forward report no changes, no plan changes in the facility size. It doesn't look like financing has been a huge issue in the reasons why they were forced to forego an expansion. In the next 2 years, it's the same. They do plan, about 18% plan to increase the facility size, and 3/4 plan to remain the same. Some of the key factors that are important for business expansion decisions are going to be tax incentives. You guys' NRP program is a really good program that provides a lot of incentive to expand. Improved efficiency, of course, for the business itself, and availability of space. Part of our work is market matchmaking. So when you talk about business technical assistance and what you can do, we ask businesses, if there's any service or if there's any product out there that you could offer, but you aren't offering now, what's the reason, or would you do that? So 32% of the respondents said that they would offer an additional service or product. So then we ask, if you're not doing it, why aren't you doing it? And the majority of them responded lack of adequate skilled labor. So again, workforce, these themes keep coming up throughout. And I'm sure this is not a surprise, but it's good to get, this primary data straight from the horse's mouth from our businesses. Lack of affordable financing was the second top on that. Market matchmaking, that's what we were getting to. So if there's something that's produced in the state of Kansas, would you use them as your supplier, as your source? And 1/3 of the respondents show interest in doing that. So that's part of our regional work on, is there somebody in the region or even across the state really that's building what you have or could potentially build what you have to sell or use in your space there. Financial strategy. So the source of financing that most businesses are using is a bank loan, and the second highest is personal savings. And well, actually, the second highest is NA, because that indicated that they're not, having any intentions of expanding. So when we're talking about that, what the next question was, what financing needs of your business are local financing institutions not presently meeting? Lack of local expertise was an issue. Grant writing got brought up several times. No federal tax credit experience. Unmet promises was another thing with inadequate local financing solutions. Communication barriers seems to be an issue with lenders refusing to discuss loans, lack of information on grant opportunities again, because there really aren't a lot of grant opportunities out there for businesses. So time-consuming process, time is money. We all get that. We did this. I don't expect you to read this or be able to see all this little tiny print. I just want to show that we have done it previously, and we are analyzing and looking at, they aren't apples to apples because it is, a perception survey, but it is good to know that we are seeing both. Both surveys were the same surveys, and we got the template from the Department of Commerce. Some of the feedback that we did get was it was a little long, so I reached out to Craig Van Way, our Department of Commerce contact, and it's intentionally that way so that they can reach all different industries, from manufacturing to service sector to retail to everything, to really encompass everything intentionally that way. Okay, so 2019 to 25, road quality and maintenance was an issue in 2019. Medical services was just, the hospital just closed, it was an issue. Labor pool quality was an issue. Broadband internet was a major concern. So labor pool quality is still an issue. Medical services and road maintenance, no change. Housing availability has raised his little head as a critical issue, with 65% of respondents saying it's a major problem. Broadband internet moved from an issue to 85% positive. And of course, in all the surveys, fire, police, water, all received raving reviews. Okay, then analyzing Fort Scott's evolving challenges, medical services and road maintenance, lack of significant improvement there, persistent community concerns. Of course, we all are very well of our environment that we live in. Broadband internet quality improved from poor to good. Housing availability is a huge issue. I know we're all trying to take on that elephant. It's certainly a big one. And public services remain strong. The next page here is something Mary's going to talk about, and these were the responses from the businesses of possible actions that local governments could take to improve the business climate. And again, this was a list that was developed by the Department of Commerce. So.
And this feedback did come directly from our local businesses. At the top of the list, we have improved marketing efforts. We need to improve our efforts to promote the city and attract businesses. We are actively working on that right now. We're all aware that the tourism department is being redeveloped. We're working on a lot of new strategies. So I really think that improved marketing efforts is something that we are going to be able to see some major improvements on over the next year. Communication enhancements, enhancing dialogue between local and state governments and businesses. That is also something that we have heard repeatedly. It's just been an issue over as far back as anyone can seem to remember, that we are actively trying to address, not just in how we are communicating, but what we are communicating. We do a lot of our communication through social media, through radio ads, through flyers, things like that. So we are brainstorming some other ideas of ways that we can get communication out there, and also just try to, address different departments and their structures and what those departments do. And each role seems to be something that businesses are wanting to hear regularly as well. Incentive programs, providing incentives for new and expanding businesses. That is one thing that I am hoping our small business grant incentive program is going to help address. Workforce development, increasing efforts to provide a skilled workforce. I think that Jody's going to talk about this a little bit more, but HBCAT, the city and school district are hoping to partner on a mentorship program, and I'll let her talk more about that, but I think that'll help a lot with workforce development. Financing opportunities, we're all aware that that's a struggle. Improving access to capital for businesses. I just attended a Network Kansas event the other day. So just making sure that businesses are aware of the opportunities that are out there. There might not be a whole lot of opportunities, but just increasing our communication, making sure that they are aware of what's there. Responsiveness improvement, improving local government responsiveness to business needs and resource assistance, helping entrepreneurs find available resources. That's something that I've actively been working on all year, trying to meet with businesses one-on-one, trying to figure out what each individual business needs, things that we can work on to improve, and just making sure that our local businesses really feel like they are being heard, they are being appreciated, they are being, listened to, their concerns. So that's one thing that I've been working on a weekly basis, meeting with businesses. So all of these things I think are wonderful feedback from businesses, and we really just want to keep delving into, what can we do to help retain our current businesses, help them expand, and then also promote entrepreneurship.
And the final slide here is what local businesses want more of, and I'll just get into what our response is to this survey and what we are planning on doing. We met with the school district and Kansas Works and several different partners to kind of talk about what are some good ideas. I went to the Global Entrepreneurship Congress. I was a state delegate and got a lot of great ideas there and feedback. Went to Workforce Development Conference in Denver. So anyway, doing a lot of research. The first action item we're doing is an employer learning collaborative. Justin is spearheading this. We're going to bring together the businesses in the community and really get a full understanding of what skills they're needing. They say they need unskilled, semi-skilled, soft skills. I hate that word these days because what does it even mean? Does it mean that they can't type? Are they showing up? I mean, what is it exactly is it that we're talking about? Right? What is it? Right? And so, but it's supposed to be like having interviewing skills and dressing right and those types of things. But, it's so vague. And so we need to know, need to have a very clear understanding of what we're doing. Engaging kids. So we're working with the new business class teacher and the superintendent over at the school and combining it with the programming with the city and our mentorship program. We want these kids to move from their idea to actually fruition. You can give them a check and you can say congratulations on this. Say they're in in a challenge or something, or the FBLA or something, but they need help and they need actual mentorship to help them take them to the next step. And so we're going to work with the school, with CML Incorporated and Creative Campaign to develop a structured program for that. And the third thing that we talked about, and we want to get the community college involved in that as an end follow-up point. And then the third thing we talked with Kansas Works about was they have 2 school districts that they actually have curriculum in the school districts where they talk about these soft skills, and they teach class that costs money, and so we're going to research that to see what it would take for that. So anyway, those are what good is a survey if you don't have any action to take from that survey. Mary's got lots of things on her plate. I think she's presenting her incentive program to you as a result of the conversations she has in the community and with the survey. Any questions? Well, thanks for letting us come.
I've got a question, Jody. Out of the businesses that responded last year, it was down. Can you tell me what the total number of businesses are in Fort Scott?
No, I cannot.
Surveyable businesses that you would reach out to.
No, I cannot tell you that. I only have secondary data that should be the same census data that you would have access to.
Okay.
I'm not worried about having a list, though, so let's make that clear.
Yeah, and I'm curious, it's kind of odd, if I look at this as far as 2019 key issues compared with 2025 key issues, are these ranked 1 through 5 on each side?
On which page are you talking about?
Where it says key issues in Fort Scott business environment. 2019 issues are on the left, 2025 key issues are on the right.
So 2019 issues, that's quality of services.
Okay, what I'm looking at is it says, in the middle it says key uses in Fort Scott business environment.
Okay.
On the left it says 2019 key issues, 2025 key.
Those are listed in order, yes.
So that's in preference, so.
Except for the broadband internet, because that was actually an improvement. I meant to update that.
Yeah, so in 2019, road quality and maintenance was number 1, and now in 2025, it fell to number 4.
That is a way you could look at it. If you look at the number of poor response, that rated poor, it really was unchanged.
Okay, yeah, I'm just making sure.
But as far as priority goes, that could be a way you could look at it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just making sure I understand the data correctly. Thank you.
When you say broadband internet improvement, what are you meaning by that? Over the craw can improvements that
slip
happen
away.
in the,
With broadband improvement. So there are two things that really come to broadband improvement. It is going to be actually having the fiber, the wires, or whatever it takes to get to your house. And then it's going to have the technology, the computers, to actually access that broadband. So there's two things that we look at when we're working with broadband. Either that wasn't really addressed in the survey. So when we think about what our businesses are saying with their broadband, there could be more room for conversation about what exactly it is that has improved. Because there is still communities, south of Fort Scott that still really have a gap in broadband.
that's very true. I was just wondering in general for the city of Fort Scott though, because Crawcan came in, kind of pushed out Suddenlink. So Crawcan kind of has the market now. So from a city perspective, what could we do to encourage, I guess, Crawcan to improve broadband?
I guess there's always room for improvement. If I were going to spend my time, talent, resources, and energy, it wouldn't be on something that got an 85% positive. I would be spending my time on labor pool, housing. But I mean, there's always room for improvement. I get that. And especially when the internet goes down, they got a monopoly on it. You have to get, and it has happened, you have to get a hotspot out to connect to your point of sale so that you can continue to make sales. I mean, it's an issue for sure. Yeah.
That's all I had. Thank you. Thank you for coming too and presenting
Thank you.
everything.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Come a long ways from Terra World. Remember that one? Yeah. You're probably too young.
Long way from AOL, yeah.
All right. Okay. That ends the appearances. We're going to move on to unfinished business. Item A, consideration of small business grant incentive program. The revisions. Hi again, Mary Wyatt. Thank you.
Yes, the revisions were made based upon the work session that we had, and basically everything highlighted in your packet is something that either we addressed and the commission acknowledged that they would like to see changed, or it's something that I have an actual question about. So I know this is a lot, guys. I don't know if you want to go through it line by line. I don't think it'll take that long. It's pretty quick questions, but I mean, that's totally up to you as far as reviewing it and if that's something that you'd like to do this evening.
So just to review,
Uh-huh.
are we still talking about a match program?
Yes. Yes, and it is
That's
listed in this.
a dollar for dollar match, or?
I believe we had come to a consensus of 25% being what everyone was kind of leaning towards, but that's something, again, that we could change.
Okay.
I believe that part is listed in Section
Section
4, Program
Yeah.
Funding Source. I do have a question or concern in that category as well. I don't know if you guys want to
Yeah, I
hop
was
around
just-
or.
Yeah.
After consideration, I just, I'm afraid of making the program unavailable to the businesses that would benefit most from it, being those that lack the capital outlay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because if we understand having skin in the game,
Right.
but if we establish the price point to get and qualify for the grant too high, it will continue to only benefit those who already have the funds.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
But it gets back to, are you funding startups or are you funding business improvements?
Yes.
You're
think it's
funding
both,
startups?
Both?
Both.
Yeah.
So that's where, like I said last time, if you want to create a program that is for startups,
Yeah.
then I say get together, work on something that will help address that need. This particular program is not about startups.
Yeah, this one's only for existing businesses,
It's
correct?
about growing our existing businesses and helping them continue to grow so that we can employ more people and continue to allow them to be a benefit, so.
Well, then if you go to section 1, you have to change, expand or start a new small business.
Right.
Well, I think it would, my opinion, it should still apply. I'm not in favor of just handing free money out myself. I personally feel there should be a private stake in it, that if you're gonna come to the city and ask for $10,000-$15,000, you need a stake in it. That's my opinion.
Oh, yeah, I don't disagree.
I thought that the 25% that we settled on was actually lower than where we had started at in the work session.
Ye-
I think we discussed numbers of 50-50 or direct match, and that the one that, while we couldn't vote on it in a work session, I thought that the
Right.
general consensus was that a 25% match was feasible for folks, but, I mean, it's something that still can be, discussed and voted on.
I mean,
And did we,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, did we take out the part about adding the minimum requirement to add one employee? I mean, I see the part in there, increasing part-time employees to full-time employees.
I believe that you wanted to take out, or one of the commissioners wanted to take out that adding an employee had to be a requirement because we were discussing what about policy changes, or say an existing business had some sort of regulatory change.
Right.
And in order
That
to
was me.
keep on running, they need to request grant money. So we wouldn't want to restrict based upon that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I had said something about wanting to be able to retain an employee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we took that out.
Okay.
I did have a couple of questions. 20 or fewer employees, is that what you would like to consider a small business, or?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
That's what I would agree with.
Okay.
Okay.
And I guess just my thoughts on, to streamline this a bit. Of course, if we're worried about startups versus existing businesses or something, or having skin in the game, we're going to be evaluating them and deciding. So if we feel like that's not, if they are not sufficiently invested, if it's not something where if we feel like we're just handing out money, then that would be someone we would not give it to.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, it's addressed under Section 3 there, that scenarios of grant dollars requested up front for the applications will be considered on a case-by-case basis for the Fort Scott City
Yeah,
Commission.
so-
It does make a concession to allow that.
Yeah.
If it's something that's
Yeah.
extremely worthy, that it can be brought before the commission, they can take a look at it.
We could even coach somebody like,
Yeah.
hey, you haven't done it. So, I mean, I think, I don't know if we have to solve that tonight. I think it's in there, so.
What we've talked about is Mary would basically be a mediator with the businesses to get them ready to come here, show their business plan, show the ratings, and then you five make the decision of what's going to happen.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember if did we stipulate that they actually had to state what the project was, or the plan?
Yeah.
Yes.
But they had to have a business
Yeah,
plan
I remember they
and,
have to have a business plan.
yeah. And also, unless it's a case-by-case business that you're willing to give money up front. Otherwise, this is going to be reimbursement based. So you all would be reviewing receipts, making sure that they're eligible expenses that you agree with, as a safe hold for that. I also did have another question about, I guess, the amount that's going into the fund quarterly versus the maximum amount we would be offering per grant application. So with the 15,000 that the consensus was to allocate per quarter, but then offering a $10,000 maximum, and then letting the applicant write in the amount that they need. Well, let's just say John Deere comes in and he requests the full 10,000, it's awarded to him. And then another person comes in also requesting 10,000 or 8,000. Well, then there's only 5,000 available. So I didn't know if we want to keep the 15 per quarter, do we want to make it 7,500 max? Or would we want to increase it to 20,000 and have 10,000 max, or decrease it to 10 and have $5,000 max, just something that's a little more divisible as far as,
We had talked about that, and we were allowing for a rollover, and for
Right.
if someone had a good application that didn't get granted that quarter, that they could reapply with that same application come the next quarter.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I recall, was that just a reminder that, hey, we appreciate you submitting, and if someone's got something fantastic, and they take the chunk of money, 90 days from now, they can reapply.
Okay, so if an applicant came to me, a second applicant, and they were requesting 8,000, but only 5,000 was available, I could just advise them that they would need to apply next quarter. That will work for everyone?
Or apply for 5,000 is what I would assume.
Okay.
Or they could apply for the 5,000 now,
Mm-hmm,
and then apply for the other 3,000 at the next quarter.
definitely. And I did have to also, just so you're all aware, I had to completely rework the point system as far as grading the applications, because if we are allowing the applicants to write in what dollar amount they need, let's say they request $3,289, we wouldn't be able to use that, those point ranges for 5,000 or 10,000. So I changed it to a percentage. So between 16 and 20 points would equal 100% of what they requested. 12 to 15 would be 50% of what they requested, and 0-11 would be 0%. And of course, that's completely up for your review, and if you would agree with that.
Overall, I like what you've presented. If we decide we want to make some changes to it later, we can always amend it. We can always change things moving forward. So my motion would be that we move forward with the small business grant incentives program as presented this evening.
With the funds
Second.
coming out of economic development?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Tracy Dancer,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Dylan Olson,
Yes.
Catherine Salisbury,
Yes.
Matthew Wells.
Yes.
Thank you, Marion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I did have just one other thing I wanted to address to make sure that this would be okay with the commission. As we were talking through the applications and the things that we will be requesting from these applicants, financial documents could be included. And typically, always, when we send information out in a commission packet, it goes to the public. I would assume we would not want all of that financial
Redact that.
information. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Keep it here.
okay, so we keep that here, and each one of you will review when
Yes,
you're
Correct.
reviewing the applications. Okay.
What is that thing, Bob, that, there's a classification that says we
Redacting.
can't share that stuff anyway.
Well, yeah, we've got a provision that allows you to protect financial data
Yep.
of industries
Yes.
in business.
Oh, the only other question I had was, I think, I know, I'm so sorry. They just keep popping in my head. I think at the work session, we had discussed that I would receive the applications and then I would present them to the commission. My concern with that would be if you all have any questions about that particular application or that project, I would not be privy to that information. unless that person was here or they presented it to you. I'm not opposed to it, I just didn't know how to work through that.
Yeah, I think you would present it, but they would need to be here to answer questions.
Okay.
That makes sense.
I would think they would need to be here to talk about their project.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense too.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay, and now we will address the consideration to formally adopt the guidance provided by the Kansas State Historic Preservation Office, SHPO, for the installation guidelines of murals, which was tabled from May 20th, 2025. Lisa Dillon?
Are we skipping
Did I?
action on 118 East Wall?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
uh-huh.
It's still, it's for sale,
Yeah.
so give them time to see if they can sell it. It's on the market.
Good evening, Commissioners. So I wanted to bring into you, I think there was a little bit of misunderstanding whenever I had last presented this. This was about accepting guidelines in general, as we do not have, the Design Review Board does not have a specific guideline for murals. So I'm asking that we would be able to, that you would approve for us to be able to accept these guidelines from SHPO, that we would be able to move forward with having that added to the Design Review Board.
So in effect, you're asking us if we will recognize and enforce Kansas state law regarding murals in historic districts.
Yes, because we don't have a specific guideline for that in our ordinances or anything, so that's what we would like to be able to do.
Okay.
Lisa, do you know how many of the murals that were painted in the last couple of years actually were used under this guidance?
No, I don't.
One.
One, which one was that, Commissioner Dancer?
It would be the 1st Kansas Infantry.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I want to know, what is our understanding about if we adopt this, the ones that exist now, do we have to remediate them, or?
No, it's something moving forward.
Okay, I just wanted to understand,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
It's just that currently we have nothing that we are
No, that
using
makes
as a guideline
Yeah.
for murals. And so that was just something that they wanted to formally accept, to be
No.
able to say that we do have something for
No, that
mural.
makes, it's the law, okay, all right, thank you. All right, I would entertain a motion on this.
Do we,
Sorry.
do we need to implement a measure by which people who wish to paint murals in the historic district apply for review? Because right now they don't. Or they haven't, or
See,
only
my
one has.
understanding is no guidelines are needed if there's no permit required. The guidelines only apply if we put a permit in place, so.
So if we accept these guidelines, we have to have a permit for any mural going forward.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so.
Well, any action by the city, right? Including, is that including a certificate of appropriateness?
Go ahead.
Sorry, my understanding was that if it requires an action by the city, including approval of a certificate of appropriateness. That is a city ordinance, correct? Yeah. That if it requires a certificate of appropriateness from the city, then
Have they all gone through that process?
All the murals that are currently up did go through that process, yes.
no, they did not.
These down here, yeah. I sat in on the meetings when they came and they
When they-
talked to the Design Review Board about it.
Oh,
I know that the last one,
Even
Just-
the sunflowers, the city of Fort Scott, the purple buffalo, they brought them all before the Design Review Board and got a certificate of appropriateness before they did them.
You should know if you were there.
Yeah,
yeah,
I sat in on the meetings. I remember them,
Has SHPO commented on any of these murals?
not to my knowledge.
So where does this issue arise from?
I do not know.
I think it's from the Design Review Board manual having not been updated since 1993.
Mm-hmm.
so the design, it was just from the fact of that there had been so many murals that had come in and had been, you know, placed, that there wasn't any type of, I would say, request or something for some of those in different places.
Yeah, we know there's been several that have been painted without the certificate of appropriateness, because, again, the ordinance does not require it, because the Design Review Board package, you know, the guidelines haven't been updated since 1993. So, and what you're asking is, hey, can we just use Kansas state law as part of the Design Review Board process
Yes.
for consideration of certificates of appropriateness, correct?
Yes.
That's not
Is that?
quite right. I'm reading this. This isn't Kansas state law. This is only limited to historic.
To historic districts.
Yeah.
The rest
Right.
of it is that you do whatever you want.
Right.
Yeah, that's
It's not really Kansas state law.
within the historic district. Yeah, within state and federally recognized historic districts. And if also covered by a city's historic district, or register of historic places, yeah. So, and they, yeah, so,
Is this limited to the federal district or the local district?
federal and state, the Kansas state law.
Well, we have a local district that expands going down
Yeah.
Wall Street.
We got
and
two
have a
different
federal
districts.
Yeah, yeah, we've got the H district, which is, you know,
I'm going to have,
okay.
The question I had on the reviews and compliance, the third item on the bottom of the page, in historic districts, it does not matter if the building is a contributor or non-contributor to the district of the work is occurring within a public space. Anything within the boundary triggers review. So the way I can read that, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you have a building outside of the district, because it says here whether it's in
No.
the district or a contributor to the district, but it can be seen from the district that,
Oh.
you would have to get approval still to put a mural on your building, because you can see it from the district.
Where are you reading from, Commissioner?
I'm reading from Kansas State Historic Preservation Office SHPO guidance for the installation of downtown murals in our packet.
Yeah, I got
Under
that.
under review and compliance, at the bottom of the page, the third bullet.
Commissioner Salisbury,
Yes.
I am on the board, and Lisa asked if I could come up and
Yes, please do. Thank
contribute
you.
a little bit to this. This was originally triggered by a design review request for a mural. We do not have anything in our guidelines that is accessible to people currently that is about murals. So Kirk Sharp had come to to the board and requested a design review board. He was unaware of these guidelines, so it was tough because he was coming to our board and requesting approval on something that didn't meet the state guidelines. But that information was not available to him in our local process. So the idea was we would like to incorporate these because we do have design review guidelines, but it does not address murals in any way, shape, or form. So until somebody comes to us and asks us for approval, they don't realize they have to go and look at the state guidelines. Now, to address this contributing, non-contributing, those are very specific definitions, and each building or structure within the state national historic district gets a designation of contributing or non-contributing. It does not have to do with things outside the district. I'm going to forget the year, but it's been many years ago that it was eliminated within, I don't know, 50 foot or 100 foot of your historic district that you could maintain some control. That was eliminated. So the contributing and non-contributing is a designation that each building within the district gets. We currently have 83 structures, plus our brick streets in the historic district. And out of those, there's 30 some odd of them that are non-contributing buildings. That means that while they're in the district, they do not contribute to the period of historical significance, and so the rules for them are slightly different, but not with regarding periods.
Okay. No, thank you.
Commissioner, to answer your question, Commissioner Van Hookey, I don't think your reading would be the way I would read that. I think you've got, I think you have to be in the district to have this covered.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. I guess for my part, I'm not having any problems or concerns with the idea that we in our historic district would follow the Kansas law for what happens in the historic district. I guess, but it seems like there's some hesitation. So if somebody could just concisely tell me what they think the issue
This is
is.
Kansas law. This is SHPO guidance, but I don't think that falls under their act myself.
Yeah, it's not a law.
Okay,
It is their guidance on what they would suggest
okay,
for historic districts.
okay.
That's
So the-
my
All
my
right.
difference. It's not that.
You are correct.
Okay, so not, I guess then maybe you phrase that, because thank you. I still wouldn't have any problem with following SHPO guidance for our historic district. That's kind of the whole point, so.
Okay.
But I will add, if this was adopted, almost all the murals you look at out there wouldn't be there. So
Well, not in their current form. They're,
no, they definitely wouldn't
Yeah, the
follow these
only,
guidelines.
Yeah.
by these guidelines, the only one that would have been allowed is the first Kansas one, and that's because it was done according to these guidelines. Every single other one.
yeah, you can't paint
No.
previously unpainted bricks.
Right.
Yeah.
And I believe myself, the murals have added character to our downtown, so.
No question. But, I motion that we adopt the Kansas SHPO guidelines for the installation of murals in the Fort Scott Historic District. At least the state and nationally recognized historic district.
I second.
Tim Van Hookey,
No.
Dylan Olson,
No,
Catherine Salisbury,
Yes,
Matthew Wells,
No.
Tracy Dancer.
Yes. Okay, what do you guys propose?
same process that's been applied already. They have to come for a certificate of appropriateness for the same standards that are on record.
I mean, we can use, our design review board can use these guidelines. There's nothing that says that they can't use these guidelines. But we already have a process that says they have to come and get a certificate of appropriateness if they're doing a mural downtown.
I guess I'm wondering
No,
how
they-
the design review board would determine what's appropriate if they're
They
not
don't.
adopting those guidelines.
They themselves
We
can
can
adopt
have
the
a
guidelines,
form,
but
don't we, Ms. Lisa?
No, it does
No.
not address murals. That's why we were talking about this.
It's not regarding murals.
Okay.
So that was one of the issues was Kirk Sharp
Yeah.
came in and he wanted to do a mural. And I think that's what ended up leading up to this whole
Right.
entire thing.
It's not
Because it's
on the
not on
form.
the form as to,
There's an outdated, okay,
there's an application for a mural
yeah.
process, because I recall this being an issue before.
Okay. But there were, okay, that's the form that I'm referring to because I've seen, that was the form that they filled out when they did these previous murals.
Yeah,
It was
sometimes.
through Jackson.
That Jackson, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it was not an official thing? It was just,
I don't know.
okay.
So again, what do we propose?
That they are required to get a certificate of appropriateness if they're going to do a mural in the historic downtown area.
Okay.
Make that
That's
form.
But again, the city guidance does not cover murals.
So I guess that's where I'm back to, how does the design review board determine if it's appropriate if we've told them that they aren't to adopt this?
Why don't you ask the design review
I'm
board
so
to come
confused.
up with recommendations to
Okay.
give to you, so you'll have a framework to at least work from.
Well, their recommendation is that. Their recommendation was the guidelines, Bob.
Yeah, the recommendation was to adopt
They're
the,
recommending it.
So those aren't gonna work.
The point I'm trying to make is the design review board itself can adopt those guidelines, in my opinion, without our permission. They can deny a mural without our permission, but it still comes here, and the commission can say whether it should or shouldn't.
Okay, so.
So are you saying to give them that they can create their own guideline of
create
how they
their
want?
own-
But
design-
ultimately, it comes down to the city commission as to whether anything is
They
to
have
be
their
done.
own bylaws.
I just making sure I understand, sorry.
No.
They're a recommending board on it,
Right.
just like all the other boards.
yeah.
But they can accept these guidelines themselves if they want to.
Okay.
Within the design review board, there's nothing that says they can't. They can use that form that I thought was an official form, and I apologize that that is not correct.
I believed it was an official form.
We had a form that I've seen filled out and brought to this commission and previous commissions, and it went before the design review board, that form, and it was a mural form. If you want to do a mural in the downtown, here's the form. They presented what these things were going to look like and everything. They went through the whole process before they painted any of those.
Okay.
So I'm just for clarification. So I thought we always had a form because that was the form I had seen and it has been used.
I do recall pictures of the murals that were going to go up being presented to the city commission.
Yeah, but there's nothing requiring it. That's my
Well,
point.
You can't,
Yes, ma'am.
We at sometimes were told it was the discretion of the artist, and that we did not, the person coming to present the idea of the mural and location of the mural said that the intent was not to restrict the artist. So sometimes we had no idea what was going to be there, we just knew where it was going to be. And the importance of the painted surface is, if we're interested in historic preservation, we're trying to prevent these buildings from damage. And like has been mentioned, the only one that went up where the surface had previously been painted was the one that faces the fort. The others were on so-called raw surfaces, which is dangerous for the structure, for the integrity of the building.
I'm not discrediting you, but I would, as one commissioner, I would agree to disagree. I believe it adds character to our downtown. You go to almost every nearby downtown.
It's real hard to cut the joints and repoint them.
I don't think so. It's
Okay.
the same process.
Okay. All right, moving on.
So, real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's go to this. In your packet that you got Friday, did you get a page 75?
Page 75?
Out of 165? Did you get 165 pages?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
look at-
okay.
Look at page 75.
Yeah, okay, employee handbook. Okay. That's all there.
So, I'm done.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, thank you. All right. With that being said, though, since clearly it was not reviewed, can we
That's
still
fine.
move it off for another one? Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
that's
All right,
fine.
okay,
That's
great.
fine.
Okay, oh gosh, pardon me. Okay, and we had removed that item D, so, E, okay, consideration to adopt ordinance number 3782, an ordinance for the purpose of establishing the Fort Scott Historic Preservation and Resource Commission to the city code of the city of Fort Scott, Kansas, which was continued from June 3rd of 2025. Before we open this for commissioner discussion, I do understand that this is what Kathy Dancer is present, and she wants to speak and provide comments specifically about this ordinance. So, Ms. Dancer, could you please come forward?
So originally, Kathy Dancer, by the way, I'm on Design Review Board. Originally, I was the only person on Design Review Board who would be able to attend, so I was given kind of some feedback from Design Review Board as a whole, but then I also kind of went over the independence ordinance, which is, I believe, what you guys were looking at using as the basis for yours, or at least to consider. So I kind of went over that with a fine-tooth comb as well. We have had several work sessions where we were discussing this, and not to be a sore point, but if you guys are genuinely looking to move towards a CLG, we will have to follow state guidance. So even with the murals, I think they're fantastic, they're amazing, we need them all over our downtown, but we're gonna have to follow the state guidance. I mean, that's all there is to it. So the feedback that I was asked to convey specifically was that we, as a board as a whole, just, not every single individual, but there were concerns about enforcement under the CLG, but it looks like we have some pretty extensive enforcement information within the proposed, or at least the ideal, I don't know, whatever you guys wanted to use off of Independence. We did have some concerns that streetscapes are not addressed within the model Independence ordinance, and we point that out because, as I said earlier, out of the 84 items within our historic district, the brick streets are absolutely one of the recognized items. So streetscapes are not addressed.
I disagree with that because Katrina Ringler herself was here last year saying it cannot be deemed a historic item.
So item number 84 on the federally accepted historic resource inventory that was recognized by the federal government, the National Park Service in 2009, item 84 is the brick streets.
You cannot restrict a mode of transportation to the public.
I'm not saying it would be restricting it. I'm saying that they're recognized as a contributing factor in our historic downtown and the integrity of our historic downtown. So,
If that's the case, then I will not support this.
it's not about CLGs. That's part of the already recognized National Historic District.
You cannot recognize a public street as a historic item, in my opinion.
Okay.
That may be your opinion, but it's already codified.
Yeah, I'm just telling you, it's item number 84 in the National Historic Register.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, it's available on the state website. I understand what you're saying with, no, it's not about restricting, but I think it's about the
point I'm getting to
maintenance.
this is, there's been previous discussions about not just what the district we have, but expanded districts. And if expanded districts happen and you're saying roads have to stay brick, I won't support that.
That's for your historic district. That's not the national
Local-
district.
When you establish a CLG, you can adopt new local districts if 51% of the residents
Correct.
take it on. Well, if you adopt new districts that have brick roads, and you're saying now it falls under CLG and you can't replace a brick road.
No.
Yeah, the CLG doesn't say you
No.
can't replace the brick roads. When the area downtown was set up for the National Historic Register, each item had to go through and be listed as a
Right.
contributing factor or not. And so each building, there's a write-up, and it was sent to the federal government and said, this is a contributing factor to the National Historic that's being established in our downtown. Number 84 on that list is the brick streets in the historic district.
So,
So
yeah.
to do what you're suggesting, if a new area
Yeah.
was created, we'd have to do a write-up, go through, do the things, send it to the federal government. The federal government would have to be the one to declare it.
I'd like to see where it says this, because before I would support an ordinance.
Yeah, I would too, because I remember the long work session we had with Katrina Wrangler, and if my memory serves me right, when this question was asked of her, it may be on our original list to turn in, but Katrina had said a street cannot be designated as a historic item. Now, that was what she told us in the work session. If that's documented somewhere else,
So within this,
our inventory, I would
yeah,
like to see that.
you're correct. Within the CLG, it cannot, according to the CLG, be established within the CLG. So there's a crowbar separation that you have to create when you talk about the CLG versus the National Historic Register, which is just the National Historic Area of Fort Scott downtown. The two are not
Yeah.
in any way connected or have anything to do with one another.
It's,
It doesn't have to be in this ordinance, that would be minor.
no,
Exactly.
no, and
It's
that's.
already in existence, so why are we even talking about it?
Well, and my points were getting derailed, but we were concerned about streetscapes because within the proposed ordinance, or assuming you're using independence, there are definitions laid out in that, and streetscape is not included. As a matter of fact, structure isn't included. So it doesn't define structure, it doesn't define streetscape, it doesn't define rehabilitation, renovation. There are quite a few things in there that within a historic district should be defined and laid out so that it's understood the difference between renovation, rehabilitation, reconstruction, so it's understood what a streetscape is. I would point out that within the national district, it's every structure that is in that national district. So the statues out in front of the courthouse, they're listed in our resource inventory. And the brick streets are listed in our resource inventory. So those are considered a historic resource. It has nothing to do with local districts, because that's a local district that can be established by the CLG, and that's not
Yeah.
about the brick streets.
So basically, just so I'm making sure that we're all on the same page here, if we just suddenly decided we were going to expand and we put a local district that includes over to like Crawford and 8th, where I'm at, and those happen to be brick streets, that does not suddenly fall under
No.
the same, okay.
No, not
Yeah.
at all. The
That's- I just
CLG
wanna make sure we're on the same page.
can recognize local historic districts, no different than we actually already have an H district here.
Mm-hmm.
And that does not mandate any different treatment necessarily. The work to get onto a national register is something that is so time intensive, no one does it.
Yeah.
I think I could be wrong, but I only know of one house in our entire community that's on the National Register, because it takes forever and it is so much work, and most people don't want it, to be honest.
For instance, like Wall Street, though it is in the H district,
Right.
because it was not in the historic district, they could pave over the bricks on Wall Street, and it was not an issue because it was not in the National Historic
Well,
District.
I'm curious about this now because the alleys were brick. Are all of our alleys still brick?
No,
No. I mean,
but they also didn't do it, they put these little
you
cover.
can't
I mean, we-
manufacture the bricks they have anymore, so when a brick deteriorates,
One of the points we're making, though, is that, we have not been following the guidelines.
well, there's
But,
a lot of, there's so many
in order-
guidelines.
In order
you
to
can't
preserve
follow all of
our
them.
historic downtown, we need to.
Yeah.
All right. So there were concerns just in general about enforcement. Most of those seem to be addressed within the model ordinance. Non-compliance was another concern the design review had. And then, I'm so sorry because I did not bring my glasses. We just wanted to know that you guys were actually going to be codifying those things. But again, based on that kind of model ordinance, it does seem as though those things are codified. We did have some other specific recommendations, like I said, in addition to some of those definitions that seem to be kind of missing. And it's not a big deal. It's something that can be added later. But I think for transparency and so that everyone is on the same page, we understand what a rehabilitation is versus a renovation, repurposing a building, that we understand what a streetscape is. There were just several words there that we felt would be good to include in your ordinance if that is the direction you're going to go. And then we did have, I'm so sorry, I'm looking for my notes now because I've already lost them. There was a section of the ordinance, there we go, the definitions. Oh, a mural. A mural is not defined in the ordinance. Signage, which we thought was kind of ironic because that is the one thing that almost all communities have a review board of some sorts for. We would like to see some kind of signage definition. So does, and I think this was actually brought up, Lisa, there was somebody wants to put up a temporary sign. Do they actually have to come for approval? What meets our definition of signage that would trigger a review by a resource commission? Sorry. The ex officio, I think that there were some recommendations in the independence draft for ex officio members. They had, if I recall, a Chamber of Commerce member, a zoning board member, and something else. Museum, maybe, yeah, museum. Since we don't have some of those things, we just kind of wanted to recommend that you consider, I don't think anyone from the fort can officially be on, but possibly the Friends of the Fort, because I think that's been kind of a miss in the past where we have obviously a national historic site, and having somebody adjacent to that at least provide some input would be nice. Let's see. Just a general comment about the red tag process, because within the proposed ordinance, your historic review commission becomes an interested party. So when you're sending out those notifications for whatever you want to refer to your red tagging process as, the Resource Commission is an interested party within the historic district, and so they do receive a notification as well according to the model ordinance. So we just felt it would be nice to have some clarity about what that process is. Maybe this commission's super clear, maybe the city itself is super clear, but having a little bit of clarity around that process would be helpful. Specifically, the example was given of, okay, if there's interior structural issues, but no one's ever coming for a permit, et cetera, how do you guys ever get a chance to review that building? You know, we've got a building over on Wall Street that, by all the feedback we've heard, has actually needed repairs for a very long time. So we would like just clarity, or I think that commission would, it would be helpful for them to have clarity about how that happens in that process. So
as far as that interior stuff goes, that falls under our 2012 IBC. We have an international building maintenance clause that is just not been properly enforced, that gives our codes officials and fire officials the right to go in and observe that stuff at any time.
Yeah.
Technically, that's already covered under our building codes.
Right.
I don't know if it needs to be.
No, not necessarily within here, but we felt like having, I would say like I don't want to call it a flow chart, but some type of flow chart where, okay, what's the next step? Because if your resource commission is going to be an interested party in that, educating them on that would be helpful.
The reason for that is because they're taking over the responsibility of SHPO, so.
Yep, exactly.
It's much the same way SHPO would say, yeah, you can knock that building down, then that would be their job. But
correct.
for the signage and all that, the board, committee, board, whatever you want to call it itself, would establish that.
Right.
Under, it says, section blank, but it says criteria to determine appropriateness. The FHPRC shall adopt principles and guidelines establishing
Correct.
criteria for new construction, alteration, additions, moving, and demolition, structure, sites, objects, or properties in the historic district.
Right. What I was referring to was in the initial part of the proposed ordinance, there's a definitions section, and some of those things aren't defined.
Right, but what he's saying is that according to the way it's, the one that we're proposing, it gives the board the right to define those things themselves.
You would define what a certificate of appropriateness is, and let's say the board still denies it, whoever's denied still has the right to appeal to the city commission.
Sure, sure. So if you guys are comfortable with the Resource Commission, if that's the route you guys go with defining those things for themselves, then that's great. It's just there was a definition section, and those were some items that
Yes.
would normally be defined. Independence I don't think they've got the National Historic District the way we do, so there might be a need for some additional clarification and definitions that doesn't necessarily exist in Independence. And then the last thing, and I know it'll be a sore point, so I'm just going to go on there with it. Within the proposed ordinance, it specifically states in section 5135, if I'm reading correctly, essentially that the city should, I almost said a bad word there, that the city should be exempt from the process altogether. And while I understand that for some of, the current management has been very proactive, the current city commission, this is the first city commission in my 40 years in this community that has been as active about addressing some of the issues in our historic community here, in our historic downtown. I would say, though, when you break down the numbers of those 83 resources that were identified, we have torn down 5. We have 4 that, to my knowledge, are red tagged or in jeopardy, what you would call in danger in most places. And then we have an additional, I think it was 6 I've got listed out that would probably qualify for a change from either contributing to non-contributing because of changes. So in total, when you look at it, it represents over 20% of the contributing buildings in our downtown have experienced significant changes since 2009, when the historic district was recognized, that have either resulted in demolition, endangerment, or in loss of contributing status. So I just think that's something to consider, not when you're looking at this exact moment in time, but when you're looking at it from that, 10,000-foot view over what's happened historically, that it would be nice if we maybe had a little bit of a conversation between City and Historic Resource Commission, if that's the way you go, about some of the projects. And I'm not saying it's city fault, but when you look at, for example, there's a building that was considered contributing in 2009 that an entirely new facade was put on. It is now no longer a contributing building to our historic district. It's not recognized yet by the state. It hasn't been updated by the state. But, and that was not a city trigger, but what was done to change that on the city's part, I don't know. I don't know that there was ever any enforcement. There's some concerns there. But then when you look at some of the other issues that have been brought about, we would just like to make sure that there's continuity in how any project is addressed within the historic district. So I don't think that we would necessarily advocate for the city being fully exempt. We would love to be able to review city projects as well. The thing that I would say, I'm not necessarily for or against CLGs. But it has the ability to drastically expedite the process that building owners in your historic district are currently experiencing. I've heard tale of, 9-month process, I think I had heard you mention once, for windows, and this eliminates so much of that. However, it does subject us to auditing on behalf of the state, so we can't decide whether or not we're going to enforce those SHPO guidelines just willy-nilly. We do have to be willing to enforce them or justify why it's an exception to those SHPO guidelines. So that's kind of the summary of everything, the feedback that Design Review Board had, because we have had several work sessions that we kind of looked at that and discussed it a little bit. So we just kind of wanted to give you feedback, since you may not have quite the same approach or eye that we do. So there you go.
Thank you for your time,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Cantor. Sure. Could you come on?
Tell you what, I've got a lot of stuff I'd like to address, so when you guys are done having your discussion, I would like an opportunity to go that I found in the ordinance that I would like to bring up, so let me know when that time is.
Mrs. Gentry's up.
I wanted to give other people an opportunity to speak first.
Mrs. Gentry's up to the podium.
My name is Martha Jane Gentry, and I'm a member of the Design Review Board. In going through the definitions, as much as, and Kathy outlined what we would think were omissions, the definitions end with the letter O. That means nothing that happens after O is listed as a definition, and almost looks like a page is missing, except it's not. So you think of all the letters in the alphabet that come after O that could apply to downtown. To me, that there are omissions that need to be clarified. And when we looked at the document for Lawrence, skimmed over it, St. Joseph, Missouri, Abilene, this one comes closest, we thought, to the needs of Fort Scott. More succinct, clearer, and one sentence, to me, is what should be driving all of this. And it's the last one in section 50-1, policy, letter B. I have my glasses on and I can't see that well. It is the sense of the governing body that economic and general welfare of the city cannot be maintained or enhanced by disregarding the historic, cultural, and architectural heritage of the city. In the almost 50 years that I've lived here, I've seen a declining respect for the historic, cultural, and architectural heritage of the city, and I hope that's restored. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Tim, do you want to go ahead?
Does anyone else that's in the room have any comments they'd like to make first? Like I said, I'll need a few minutes.
Yeah, I just got a few things I want to touch on.
Okay, Commissioner Dancer's going to speak.
Hey, Tim.
Oh.
Mrs. Dancer, though, as the representative for the Design Review Board, I would be curious to know the board as a whole, as you spoke, were they in favor of or not in favor of the ordinance?
I don't think they've had a chance to see it.
I thought they had reviewed it and asked her to kind of be the spokesman for it.
We reviewed the independence ordinance, so we have not seen whatever you guys are looking at. Maybe there was something in your packet, I don't know. But we reviewed what independence had because that was kind of the feedback or the consensus last meeting. It is independence, yeah.
Better version of the independent.
Of course, because you wrote it.
I took out gaps, some spaces, and gaps, and thought, well, this is crazy. It's just A, B, C, D. But it's almost
Right.
verbatim.
I really hate speaking at such a general level, but I feel like that, I'm trying to word this as diplomatically as possible, that the CLG approach has a tremendous amount of potential. However, it also can set us up for absolute failure if not implemented and enforced with fidelity and consistency. So I think it has the potential to provide so much local control over what is happening in our historic district, and it provides an opportunity for some other things. But having said that, we see so many violations since the institution of the National Historic District, of National Historic Guidelines, that there is concern that, is this the magic bullet that fixes that? Is this what takes us from non-compliance, not even submitting to the state for comment for, 15 years or however long? As a matter of fact, I think that we got our first comment back from the state, and I've only been on the board less than a year, but I don't think, Martha Jane, you've been on the board a long time. Do you ever remember an official state comment coming back on any proposed projects? No. So there's a process in place, and we just haven't followed it. since we were recognized as a National Historic District. So there is a lot of concern that if that continues to be the approach, we are going to struggle. So I think the CLG has tremendous potential, and as a downtown business owner, it would be amazing to be able to come to a single board, get approval within 30 days, 45 days, whatever, and it is my neighbors and my fellow Fort Scott citizens that, I think it's his breathing, that are making those decisions about what is best for our community. It absolutely puts that control back in our community. However, if we're not going to enforce it, or if we're going to put ourselves, I'm so sorry.
You trade your microphone to turn that one off?
I think it's Tim.
It's Tim. It's Tim.
Tim hungry or?
I'm sorry, that's why I'm chuckling so much.
Microphone? No,
It puts so much local control back here where I think it belongs and where we're best able to make those decisions. But if we're going to go and say, well, sure, those are the state guidelines on murals, but we want to paint over this original brick anyway, then we're going to put ourselves in a position where we're in non-compliance with the state when they come and audit us. So I think that there's some support, but there's also a lot of reservations about our ability to uniformly enforce.
So it's one of those with great power comes great responsibility kind of things. Yes, okay, gotcha.
Yes.
I think that that's a good summary, and I think that Design Review Board in our discussions absolutely acknowledges that. So there's excitement but trepidation, and I think that either direction the commission chooses to go, I think that there's great potential, provided that there's transparency, open communication, and support. And of course, you know, I think that the entire Design Review Board acknowledges that if you guys go with this and you set up a Historic Resource Commission, there's not necessarily immediate, it's not immediate participation of Design Review Board just switches over to that. So we're not looking at it as what we want. We're looking at as the experience. Yeah. For the city, and how do we set that up to be successful? So when we talk about those definitions, you can say, well, sure, we can define them for ourselves, but I think that rather than having 5 people design or set up those definitions, it's something that the community should be able to set up and agree upon.
It would take a process, because even if we pass this tonight, there's still a lot of, the board would have to
Oh, yeah.
establish.
This is just
Oh,
the
yeah.
beginning
The
of
board
the
itself would have to probably have
Yes.
many meetings just to come to a consensus.
Yes, absolutely. So I think that there's mixed reviews on CLGs, but most of it has to do about concern about implementation than actual, it's an execution, not a stylistic. Yeah, the concept, I think,
As-
thumbs up.
I support the idea of a CLG. It's just, I want people to keep in mind there has to be a balance between maintaining what's historic and also allowing for innovation and private investment and so forth, so that 100 years from now, those buildings are still there and the interiors have been redone, and you're not stifling someone.
Sure.
from-
I would point out to you in my review of that historic resource inventory, I'm going to stick with the number 83 since I don't, well, actually, it'd be 81 because you can't control the statues. But several of those are government buildings like the post office, the courthouse, the city hall. It's non-contributing, but it's in the district. But when you look at the change of ownership in the last 14, 15 years, I think there's roughly been 80% or more change in ownership, and that's just my casual glance. Oh, I know that person no longer owns this building, that building, this has changed hands. So when you look at the rate that buildings have changed hands, I think it's been tremendous, and I think it's been a very positive change, actually, since the historic district was first implemented. And I think even at the state level, there's been great recognition of some of those innovations like you're talking about. And the example I would give was we, as a design review board, had approved installation of some solar panels on awnings over at Hole in the Wall. And then I think you guys kicked it back. The state actually now recognizes that solar panels are considered a temporary structure, and it's moving towards the modern age, so to speak, and that as a temporary structure, if you were to take that into consideration, I don't think there would have been an issue with the awnings. Now, there's a whole view shed issue potentially from the fort, but that's the fort's fish to fry, not our fish to fry, so to speak. So there is leeway for that. The state's maybe a little further behind than we'd like them to be, but I would argue that the city's even further behind than that. Just not recognizing, for example, the murals. And I think they're fantastic, but a process for it a recognized official process for it, where it's consistent, would be nice, because it's tough when somebody comes and says, hey, I've got this amazing mural, and the muralist they're looking at is recognized, they're following all the right steps, but they were wanting to put it on a surface that wouldn't have been approved by the state. So there's workarounds, though.
Like you said, there's a temporary attachment.
There is absolutely ways to get around that.
Go over architectural stuff, you can attach
Exactly,
panels.
exactly.
Put up a
So following that mural guidance wouldn't mean we don't have any of the murals downtown. It means that we'd have to say, okay, how can we honor those guidelines and achieve our purpose? And that you can set up temporary structures, you can, attach it so long as you're not going through mortar joints. There's other alternatives. So, okay.
All right. So, just, yeah, I just had a few comments to make before turning over to the mayor. In reviewing the document, under, I think, membership, it was, Bob, you cut out I think the third paragraph, the third bullet, regarding, yeah, so membership and appointment. There's a clause in there, and it's repeated further down, but this one in particular, it says, not less than 3 appointees shall be composed of persons who are engaged or retired from preservation-related professions such as archaeology, architectural history, conservation, blah, 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 blah. And that entire paragraph is missing, but the clincher on that one was, recognizing that you may not have within your community, representatives from those backgrounds. You need to be able to, you need to be authorized to retain consultants, right?
I got a question.
Yeah.
The section you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
all appointees should have persons who demonstrated interest, knowledge, or training in the field of the things
Yeah,
you
that-
just talked about.
That paragraph, paragraph 2 under that section, membership and appointment.
Right.
You have that, but there's nothing in there about retaining consultants. If the body recognizes that they don't have the requisite experience or expertise.
The
That'd
body
be an
no,
action.
I think what you're missing is the body regulates themselves.
Yeah,
They can, if they've got budget, or they got a friend that's a consultant or whatever, there's nothing that stops them. They're a quasi-autonomous body.
Yeah.
We could put 8,000 pages in here, but
Okay.
this is a guide for them structure.
Okay.
That they can do whatever they like in that regard. We can add it. It's up to you guys.
Okay.
They will no longer be an advisory board. It is.
Yeah, they're an action board. So the membership, I think at the previous meeting, we voted to increase the membership from 5 to 7, or at least proposed it.
We didn't talk about it at all as far as this was.
Not as far as this goes, but the big impetus from the design review board, as I understood it, was they wanted to increase membership because
I understand.
they had a
This
lot of
has
work.
Nothing to do with the design review.
No, I understand.
So I didn't put that in here.
Sure.
Okay.
So, for similar reasons to design review board, I think I would like to see 7 members included because it represents a lot of work.
You guys can make any recommendations and pass it as a group, and we
Yeah.
can make that change.
Okay.
That's what, this is just a draft.
Okay.
Yeah. So make your list and put it in a motion, let them.
Okay. And then, yeah, just including the city as one of the governed parties.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Tim? Unless somebody else has something. Tim?
I'm here.
Okay, man. Floor is yours.
Okay. Yeah, so Bob, my first question is, I read through the independence ordinance and the one that we've got in front of us, and it's pretty much verbatim. Am I
Yes.
wrong?
No, it is.
Okay.
Since
So
that was the
verbatim
source you
or-
wanted to use, and
Yeah.
it had already been approved, and the state's working with it, I assume that that's what you wanted to follow. Yeah.
So to save time, just my concerns and questions on here. And, I'll go quickly, and for the benefit of the commission, I'll let you know what page and what paragraph I'm on. First one is, page number 5. I do have concerns about additional, capacity and requirements on city employees based on the annual report, under annual report, the items highlighted below. Moving on to page 6 to 17, paragraph 2, I brought up the fact that we're required to do a survey and an inventory for CLG. I think someone said we are not, but it is spelled out in this ordinance just like it is the Kansas statute.
Yes.
Paragraph 9, on that same page, make recommendations to the city commission regarding funding for the purpose of carrying out the duties and powers. In this chapter, paragraph 10 on page 7, make recommendations to the city commission regarding the hiring of such specialists for recommended appointments such citizen advisory committees as may be required. Paragraph 15, recommend local incentives to encourage historic designation within the city. Only reason I bring these items up, of course, is none of the things that I referenced out of those paragraphs, which were paragraph 9, 10, and 15 address funding. On that same page 17, it talks about the survey and the inventory. There is a requirement, shall create, maintain a detailed inventory within the Kansas guidelines and provide that to the state of Kansas. Moving down to page 8, paragraph 3. I think someone touched on it earlier. No application for designation of a historic structure or history shall proceed unless all owners have consent in writing to the designation. However, it does have the paragraph afterwards. I have a very old house, as an example. Unless 51% of the owners of the property within the nominated district and the owners of 51% of the property within the nominated districts have consented in writing to the designation. It probably won't happen, but it's in here, so I wanted to bring it to everybody's attention. Moving down to page 11, I do have concerns with the investments that people make downtown. So under certificates of appropriateness, paragraph 1, item E, alterations of spaces, features, and finishing within designated interiors of buildings. So that sounds to me, we're kind of telling folks what they can do with the inside of their buildings and not just the outside of the buildings.
Where are you
And
seeing
actually,
that?
Go ahead.
Where are you seeing that?
Page 11
That
at
is
the
on
very
page
bottom.
11 of 17, under certificate of appropriateness, item E.
E. The very last thing.
Alterations of spaces, features, and finishes within designated interiors.
Those would be historically designated interiors.
Yeah, that's where the interior of a building that's individually listed.
Already has its own historic designation. I don't think we have any of those in our downtown.
Yeah, we've got, well, Moody is.
Well, the Moody
individually
building
listed.
inside
Yeah.
of that, yes.
But that doesn't mean that this newly formed commission may not designate an interior.
Well, no.
Just in my
Yep.
opinion,
Okay.
I'm against telling people, I understand we want appropriateness on the outside, but I'm not a fan of trying to potentially be in a
I would-
situation where we're telling people what they can do.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, you ever, I mean, this is just a draft, guys.
And then getting criteria to determine appropriateness, and I think Mrs. Dancer touched on this. Existing character, this is paragraph 5. Existing characteristics shall include trees, walls, paving materials, fencing, walkways, and other site features that reflect the historic property significance or protected from demolition or alteration. And then landscaping shall be appropriate to the scale and feature of the historic property. That's just one personally. I'm like, we're kind of getting, literally, since we're talking about landscaping, we're kind of getting into the weeds. Page 14, it does again call out under administrative review under paragraph 5, interior modifications that do not affect or remove character defining elements of interior spaces, including the installation of mechanical, plumbing, or electrical systems that require minimal changes to existing features. Page 15, again, we're talking about budgeting and resources, preservation funds. Item A, hereby establish the Fort Scott Preservation Fund. Funds shall be administered as directed. A city may apply for and receive, place, and fund any state, private fees, grants. The city may budget and incorporate city revenues to fund fees and fines imposed according to this chapter. They may use those funds for the purchase of fee simple titles. This is under paragraph B, item 1. Purchase of preservation easements. Purchase of a fee simple title to a historical property or properties. Payment of installments and any fees according to a contract to purchase fee simple title to a historic property or easement. Maintenance of a historic property, item 7. Properties maintenance and preservation easements, the cost of conducting and preparing surveys of historically and archaeologically important buildings and sites, cost of preparation, presentation of reports, reasonable administrative planning. The only concern I have with this is I know that in the past there's been grant funding available out there. I think a lot of the grant funding right now is drying up. So again, I don't know if I'm on board of trying to budget for all these items. Moving down to item 16 of page 16 of 17, the city may take under enforcement. The city may take necessary steps to correct a violation of this chapter if notifications of the violation has been given in the 30-day time period is elapsed. Moving down to paragraph D, any person violating any of the provisions of this chapter shall be guilty of a Class B misdemeanor, punishable by up to a $1,000 fine or 6 months in jail, or both such fine and imprisonment. Each day during which any such violation is committed, continued on, or permitted shall constitute a separate offense. Now, first of all, Bob, I'm not sure, City of Independence did this, but when I looked at the state statute, not that I'm in favor of it, but the state statute said that the fee was up to $25,000. And per review I've done Kansas statutes, in general, a Kansas city cannot enact an ordinance that is less restrictive than a state statute that covers the same subject matter.
Well, this is going to be a city violation, and it would be prosecuted in your city court. So
yeah, but we're aligning this to become a CLG. So that's
You're talking about, I believe, if we violated, SHPO came in and said you're not doing it right, what they could come after us for.
Yeah, the state violation is something separate from what the city violation would be.
This is our
So
enforcement.
then if it's bad enough, they could be hit by the city and by SHPO.
Well, it's just like
No.
a federal and state
The
crime.
state would hit the city.
Yeah.
The state would
On
come
the
in
city
and-
to enforce.
The state would come in and say, we're fining you, removing your CLG status, you
Mm-hmm.
have to come back to us.
Which
Right.
they've always had that authority since we're a historic district.
So, and then it says the city commission under paragraph F may bring action to require the rebuilding or restoration of a building, site, structure, or object, or any part thereof by a person who alters or improves any building. Any part of such action shall be in addition to and not in lieu of criminal prosecution and penalty. Okay, that's what I had from the ordinance. Everyone should have got an email, I know I did, from Katrina Wrangler that gave me a couple of more questions. These were in the questions to what the city manager had brought to the attention of Katrina for clarification, and she responded to him. One of the things that were discussed in the questions that were asked of her was us pre-approving paint schemes and windows and stuff like that. Katrina's response kind of made it sound like, we don't have that. There's not a requirement for that. There's not a requirement for somebody to put an awning up. If you read the response that she replied back to Mr. Matkin, and I did myself go around and talk to a couple of local business owners that have applied to SHPO, and the longest time frame that I heard that somebody had waited for a response was 4 weeks. So as far as expediting goes, I don't know whether or not, that's necessarily kind of in line with what we were hoping to do, because her and I think there was another email that came out from her today. It says, it states cities are not required to have a local design review committee, even if they have a state or national register historic district. However, many communities have a local ordinance establishing the local preservation, setting up a local register of historic places. They may or may not review work on historic properties. The local ordinance dictates what the local preservation commission can do. Then she goes on, talks about what you have to do, CLG. She says, also, we have heard the CLG will allow us to have a list of various things, colors, windows types, door types, that is SHPO approved, to where a business owner only must go to the commission and bypass everyone else, even SHPO. Her response is, not exactly. CLGs with a solid preservation committee who is trained and experienced doing design review according to the Secretary of Interior standards, can enter an agreement with SHPO. That agreement allows SHPO to delegate our responsibility under the statute. Actions by the city that impact register listed properties would be reviewed by local staff and the local preservation commission. So in effect, what she's saying is that someone could go to SHPO and then it could come just straight to the city commission. So with all of that said, and like I said, there's a lot here, so I tried to go through it rather quickly. I apologize. But with that said, I don't think this ordinance is ready to be voted on in the state it's in. I also know that based on the last email that Ms. Wrangler sent out where she offered to come in or do a Zoom meeting with us, I would feel more comfortable doing a work session for clarification on this, because some of the stuff I think we talked about is not matching up with what is actually in the City of Independence ordinance that we copied verbatim, and what we're actually hearing from Katrina Rangel at the State Historic Preservation Office. That's just my opinion. I would be open to a work session on the July 1st, but again, in its current state, with so many things that we've said many times, we can change this, we can change that. I don't feel comfortable voting on this evening. My opinion, and I'm done.
Anyone have anything else?
No, go ahead.
I'll say on the awning and the painting and all that, the action comes from, they're required to get a certificate of appropriateness under the current guidelines. That's where the action comes from.
That's the action. I mean, it's, we're not saying we need people to get a permit to put up an awning or, I guess awning was the example given. What we're saying is, because they're in the historic district downtown, they need to apply for a certificate of appropriateness, and that issuance of the certificate of appropriateness is the action, not the permit.
And do you have to be a certified local government to apply for a certificate of appropriateness?
No, we have that now, but, we have no teeth. We have no teeth to enforce.
And they would delegate the responsibility under KSA 75-2724 to the local community. In this case, the actions by the city impacting the registered listing. So what they're saying is that once we complete the process and we have everything onboarded, then we can make those decisions.
Right, and
At
it
the
doesn't
local
have to
level,
go to SHPO.
it doesn't have to go to SHPO.
We can decide if we want to, well,
Well-
ideally, the historic board would decide,
Mhm.
Yep.
do we want blue, as a
Mhm.
requirement? Do we want pink as a requirement?
Right.
Do we want, no one can do purple?
Right.
Kind of sets the characteristics of consistency.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, annual report, that is something that will have to be done all the time. The page 7 thing with the list is already done. We already have the list.
Just maintaining the register?
Yeah, we already have the registry, all that's already been taken care of. A lot of these other things, they've already been completed by having the design review board that we currently have. As far as that page 11, section E, I'm okay removing that one on the interiors, even though it clearly is dealing with historic designated interiors. We have,
Where
we
they're
have,
recognized as a contributing feature
yes.
to the historic nature
Right.
of the building.
And
Yeah.
there literally, there's the inside of the Moody Building, and then Kathy, did you say there was one other?
I don't know what building it is. It's where I think that one is going to be as well.
Okay. All right, so that would be 2 buildings downtown that have a historically designated interior. None of the rest of them have gone through the process, nor will probably ever go through the process to try to get their interiors historically designated.
Is the interest to keep the building standing, though, or to see more fall down?
Right, so like I said, I'm happy to delete
I would
E.
prefer to see the interior requirements go away myself.
Yes. So I'm fine with that. I mean, and I'm fine with adding 7 members. Did anybody have anything else?
No, I'm just, like I said, just an opinion of one commissioner. I think this is more than what we need. I think there's a better way. I would love to have Ms. Brinkley come in via Zoom call or whatever. I mean, we're making a few changes here and there this evening on this ordinance. But again, I think it will impact city staff. I think the changes will absolutely impact the downtown business owners. And that's why I have concerns about voting on this evening. But I mean, you guys can do what you want to do.
Lisa, you and I believe Mary have taken a lot of classes along this, so you understand
Yes.
what this is going to put on the city's plate.
Yes.
So do you have any reservations, hesitations
No,
along this?
because most everything that is already, the design review board has already accomplished so much of it. So it's just a matter of transferring from data, like the binder that I brought in and showed Commissioner Dillon was that it's just updating that information into an online system. It's not necessarily, it's not repeating anything, it's just a matter of just transferring from, because we ran into this issue, was that nobody had those actual documents and we didn't realize that until a meeting we had. It was, Peggy had brought in, she's like, well, I have them all right here. And we didn't have,
All those documents?
we didn't have all those
Yeah.
documents. And so, and that was one of the things, is it does upload it into the system to make sure that it is able to be, preserved for histories, for future generations on that aspect. And as far as everything else, I think that there's the minutes, but that's already being done. There's the annual review. I think that would be just one thing that would just be extra. But there isn't anything that's necessarily that I've come across that was overly more than what has kind of already been in place.
One of the other questions that I got asked was about the benefit of this alongside of the Main Street program. Do you know anything about that?
So, yeah, so actually, we had Scott Sewell come in today in order to talk to the downtown businesses about the Main Street program. And often, the Main Street program, along with the CELG, go very much hand in hand in order to be able to kind of really effectively move forward in preserving and enhancing what you need for a Main Street program or to enhance the economic viability of the downtown. So they often go hand in hand, and he said that he's seen most of the ones that are a Main Street program are also a CLG as well. And so it's not a complete rule, but they do often follow hand in hand.
So, Lisa, while you're up there, though, and you can feel free to answer too, and I'll ask the same question to Brad. Per the information from Ms. Grable, we could have a design review board or not, or we could have a requirement from the city to have the certificate of appropriateness and bring that and ship approval to the city commission and have it approved and done right there, correct? Either one of you can feel free to answer.
That's what Wrangler said to me, yes.
Where is the enforcement if you do away with the design review board and you leave it on the?
There's nothing to say, Commissioner Olson, that we can't do an enforcement or a penalty for it without including all this other stuff. That's
You
just
can't
No,
do the
you
enforcement
actually can't do it.
because they'd be bypassing SHPO. SHPO would have to go after them for bypassing them.
No, we could have a city ordinance that had a penalty for enforcement on it.
Well, we can't enforce it.
All these other items.
With this, we would be acting on.
I just wanted to clarify that that was an option.
Yes.
Wouldn't they have to go to SHPO, no matter what?
Yeah, that's still.
Well, I mean,
would, but if
technically,
they
they have to go to
don't-
SHPO now, but
Yeah,
they don't.
so SHPO.
Yeah, unless we do the CLG, it's,
This is us being able to act with SHPO's authority
Yes.
themselves.
and maintain the local authority and the local control.
Okay, so spinning off of that, I want to say it, make sure that it's clear because we've kind of done a lot of crosstalk. If we were to become a CLG, there are a lot of instances in which a business owner could come and to the CLG and get the permit that they need, the approval, rather than going to SHPO, which cuts that out because we're working, okay.
And they don't even have, if according to the, they don't even have to come to us.
Yeah,
It all
okay.
gets handled there. It takes a little bit off of our plate, takes a
Unless
ton
it's
off the state's plate.
denied.
So if the world
Unless it's
is.
denied, then they
Right,
can appeal
right.
it to the commission.
Got it, okay, and so basically that does streamline the process now, okay. So that seems like a benefit. And then also, here's a hypothetical coming off of this, we don't know what the future holds, but HR 1, that big beautiful bill thing, that proposes to basically nearly eliminate the Historic Preservation Fund, which is what the grants from this come from, and what funds SHPO and their operations. So if that was to go through, if I'm understanding, we would be in a position now, we wouldn't obviously probably, they still statutorily have to give 10% of those, any funds to grants, so there's a little bit out there, but that's really not it so much. It seems to me like this would now put it in our ballpark. If they're gonna be shuttering SHPO offices, that means they're gonna slow things down, there are gonna be fewer people. It seems to me it's in our community's best interest to put that power in our hands rather than putting these changes out to SHPO, which now I could think would only have to be longer if they are not as well staffed. And obviously, that's all hypothetical, but that seems to me to be the logical outcome. If you will basically eliminate all the funding and you cut the the SHPO offices, that makes it harder for us, our business owners to get their permits if they have to go through SHPO. If we had it here, it would work. Anyone feels differently about what I just said, let me know, but that was my interpretation of the landscape in front of us through that bill.
Okay.
And I can just go off of examples where we have had in this town where it has taken, in one instance, 9 months to get the SHPO approval, where it could have been a 14-day turnaround here at the city.
I thought you said it had to go to SHPO still.
Not once the CLG is enacted.
Once SHPO.
Well, that is what he just asked.
She delegates they will delegate the responsibilities under KSA 75-2724 to us.
But if we turned them down, then they could go to SHPO as an
Yes.
appeal, is that what you mean?
Yeah, if we denied it, they could go to SHPO and try to overturn us.
Okay.
If I'm a business owner and you guys do CLG, and I go straight to SHPO, and SHPO says yes,
That's not the way it works in my understanding.
But in your understanding, it doesn't. But if I'm a business owner,
Well, they could
what's going to
say-
make me
they
stop
could go
doing
to
that?
SHPO and say we're applying the wrong guidelines, and SHPO could come and review it.
Heck, I'd pretty much be happy if they'd.
My understanding is pretty
SHPO, but,
much
you know,
they go through
again, we
the
can't enforce it.
historic board. The
So, wait a
historic
minute,
board-
I'm done with the snide remarks about not going to SHPO, because you're kind of saying we're not enforcing it here.
We're not.
But when it goes to the design review board,
Mm-hmm.
do they ask if it's gone to SHPO? Do
No, they don't.
Typically, I'll ask, the ones that have come before us since I've been on, I will ask if they've gone to SHPO. But apparently there's a process that is supposed to be in place and hasn't been in place where the city actually submits to SHPO.
That started in 8 months ago, when
Okay.
Wrangler talked to Norm.
Okay.
And said, that's how we're doing it, and Norm said, that's fine. But there's a lot of records on this email that I got that I know went to Design Review Board that has no SHPO reports. So if it went to a board that we already have established,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not asking that it's going to the state,
Mm-hmm.
then why have the board? I don't understand that. So we will do our job now that we know we got to do it,
Okay.
and we're supposed to do it. But I will defend my guys. If I hear remarks that we're not doing something, come to me, and we will take care of this.
Okay, well,
But I'm telling you, some of the stuff that I'm seeing and I'm hearing, I'm reading, you're still going to have the same problem with people not doing it. And what are you going to do? What are
well,
you
if you
going to do?
have
to business
CLG,
owners?
then you can actually implement enforcement.
How do
So
you
somebody,
enforce it now?
somebody that's, exactly, you
How-
can.
Well, I'm asking, how would they enforce it now?
You will not enforce it.
Well,
Here's
but
one
how
right
can
here.
how can we control it now?
Here's one right here. Crest Building, wrong color.
Under this ordinance, it will be finable
So you're going to fine our
and
business
actually
owners.
imprisonable.
Well, you might as well close down every building, because there ain't nobody going to come to this town.
But you're
if you
talking,
do
you're
that.
saying, I'm not throwing anyone under the bus because
Okay.
they can't do anything about it.
So can I interject one thing? So if you look at it in one perspective, yes, it's very much like what you said, Brad. Is that it's you can actually have that be an instance. The other part to the instance is that we have buildings that are dilapidated and that are falling down, and that we're not able to do anything or to actively pursue something within a timely fashion in order to assist with some of those buildings. I think it's, you know, it's very much a double-edged sword that you could kind of look at, but I just don't want to forget the other side of it, is that unfortunately, we do have some building owners who are not taking care of their buildings and causing, you know, it to affect other building owners.
And they're causing undue cost to taxpayers as well, just by the example we've had for the last year, where we're potentially going to have to go spend at least $250,000 to remedy a building that otherwise we should never have to touch if it was maintained and taken care of. And that's just one. How many more are going to keep coming before half of them are gone? And we ask, where'd Ford Scott go?
All right, I will make a motion that we move forward with adopting this ordinance, adding 7 members and eliminating on page 11, item E, that deals with the interior of the buildings, and move forward with getting registered as a CLG.
Second.
Dylan Olson,
Yes.
Catherine Salisbury,
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Tracy Dancer,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey.
Now, I think we needed a work session first for clarification and have Ms. Wrangler back. So, in light of how this is written verbatim and some of the other items in there, my vote's going to be no.
Oh, it's me.
Yes.
I'm so used to it. All right. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, new business, consideration of street closure for all-class reunion.
So Rhonda Dunn is she's the chairman of the all-class reunion. We met last week. Craig Campbell came and did the street closure for the parade. The parade route's the same as always. For the all-class reunion, which is Friday, the 27th through the 28th, they would like to close Main Street from 1st to 3rd. She says no need to close any cross streets like 1st and 2nd, just Main Street from 1st to 3rd. That's what she would like. It's the same as the last. Now, most of the entertainment's going to be Liberty, right here, Cheney Witt's parking, or our parking, but there, and then Memorial Hall. That's all where everything's going to be. And I don't really exactly know. I think there's food trucks in that parking lot, but other than that, that's about it. There'll be a lot of people here.
Right.
Again, 27th, 28th.
4 p.m. to
4 p.m. on Friday, yes.
the 27th.
Well, no, it's actually, I don't know what is it.
I'm trying to understand.
That's kind of weird. I bet it's 4 p.m. on Friday till 12 o'clock midnight.
On the
28th. Yeah. Yeah.
I would move to approve the street closure for the Fort Scott High School All-School Reunion at Main Street from 1st to 3rd, from June 27th at 4 p.m. until June 28th at 12 a.m.
Second.
Catherine Salisbury,
Yes?
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Tracy Dancer,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Tim?
Okay, we've lost him.
He might be on mute. Just a second.
You might be on mute. Oh,
Yeah,
there you
I
go.
is.
put myself on mute, sorry, yes.
Dylan Olson.
Yes.
Okay, consideration to approve purchase of playground surface for Nelson Park in the amount of $36,000, which was recommended by the Park Advisory Board.
This one, I apologize, we'll have to put on the next agenda because I did not get Lisa the bids for that. So I'd rather you see the bids than just go blind.
A motion that we table item B until the next commission meeting.
That's my fault, though.
Seconded.
I got them, I just didn't do it.
It's all good. It's not like you had anything else to do.
I don't think so.
We have a second.
Yes, seconded. I don't think my mic's working. I don't know.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Tracy Dancer,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Dylan Olson,
Yes.
Catherine Salisbury.
Yes.
It's not yours. Are you on? Yeah. I don't think it's yours. Sounds like fireworks.
That's yours.
Tam.
Okay, so Tracy broke his microphone. It's time to go home, isn't it?
All gonna get electrocuted.
Is it yours?
I'm not even touching.
I was gonna say, do you want to turn it off?
They're all a little touchy right now. This one?
I don't know about all you. We got a pretty good lightning outside our back window earlier.
Okay, we'll go with reports and comments. City Attorney, do you have anything?
Yeah, I hate to do this, but I need 5 minutes. I'm sorry, but I've got to get an answer to a federal judge. I need 5 minutes
Okay.
for attorney-client privilege.
Are you sure 5 will be enough?
Yeah, I mean, you're either going to do or not, or tell me to, you to have no comment, or whatever you're going to tell me.
All right, I move the city commission recess into executive session for the purpose of attorney-client privilege exception in KSA 75-4319B2. In the meeting will be the 5 commissioners, the city manager, and the city attorney. It'll take place in the city manager's office. For 5 minutes, we'll return here at 9:16 in the commission room.
Seconded.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Tracy Dancer.
Yes.
Captain Salisbury.
Yes.
Bill Olson.
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey.
It's just the world. I didn't create the world and have never written a rule. Some of them are really impressive.
Yes.
Move that we come out of executive session.
Second.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Tracy Dancer.
Yes.
Captain Salisbury.
Yes.
Dylan Olson.
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey.
Yes.
All right. Did you have anything else, city attorney? I did not. Thank you. All right. City manager, do you have anything for
Yeah,
us?
I got a couple things.
Thank you.
So I had IT, we talked a little bit. This has been about a month ago, a couple months ago. At a place of employment that I worked before, we got hacked with ransomware. So we did a Kaizen on how to protect ourselves basically from that. And so we decided to do a phishing exercise every couple months just to make sure our people knew what they were looking for when it came to emails. And so we did one. I didn't know about it, didn't know when they were going to do it. I want to congratulate the city staff on doing such a good job. They sent out 105 emails. Successfully delivered emails were 96. So we had quite a bit we have 9 that we need to figure out why they weren't delivered. But we had one compromise. Users who reported the email as phishing was 6. Users deleted email 34. Read the email, took no action 22. Who clicked the link but didn't supply credentials 7. Who clicked the link and supplied credentials 1. Or no credentials supplied was 7, and one person did supply credentials. And then we had 9, like I said, that was inactive or unlicensed. So I'll make sure I tell my guys tomorrow in our staff meeting that we did a good job, but these are something that we're going to keep doing periodically. We did have one person that actually reported it in real-time discussion. We won't say his name, but he is in this room. So he did a good job with making sure, but he does protect us every day. So he did a good job protecting us again. So,
Brad, just out of curiosity, which department had the one that opened and entered credentials?
I'd rather not say names.
You can admit it.
It was,
Oh, yeah, that was me.
I'm sorry, trying to tease him.
That's all right. All right, I'll own it.
So, but yes, we did that. Like I said, we'll continue doing that periodically just to make sure we're safe with that. Also, we did talk about IT budget, and we'll be giving that out shortly before budget season. I did give you a city manager communicator for you to read at your leisure whenever you want to. If you need information, go to sleep tonight, that'd be good for you. Mardi Gras is Saturday, 6 o'clock start time. As of right now, 6 o'clock start time with Ernest James Zydeco Band. Then we've got a week off, but then we've got all-class reunion. And then we go into July with Independence Day celebration. So we are busy here in Fort Scott, a lot of things going on. I will say, I don't know how many people are actually watching. We have severe weather coming right now as of about 11:30. So if you are watching, be prepared. Watch Doug Hetty or whoever your favorite weather person is, but we've got a pretty good cell coming in. We've got a lot of water already standing. I've got all the guys on alert. Just told Tom when he was leaving, make sure he calls me if something's going on. But I have a feeling if we get the rain they're saying we're going to get, we will be closing roads. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Olson?
No comments.
Okay, Commissioner Dancer?
Yeah, I actually have some prepared comments, and I apologize, this is a long meeting, and I got some long comments. So that was cute. A little bit about myself and what I bring to this governing body, because we all bring some expertise. Commissioner Olson, you are always up on, whatever statute, regulation, whatever, reviewing. You know the ins and outs of land bank, of city
I
governance.
just try to give Bob a break.
Commissioner Salisbury, you bring legal expertise and HR expertise. Commissioner Wells, you bring construction and tradecraft expertise. Myself, over the past 30 years, in and out of uniform, I've worked as a software developer, an enterprise architect, classified program manager, and as the principal systems engineer for data center operations, cybersecurity, physical security, disaster recovery, and ransomware threat mitigation. I've been a classification authority. I'm also a certified federal contracting officer with more than 20 years' experience managing contracts and delivering on contractual deliverables. I got 20 years of project management experience on projects and programs as large as $200 million. Since I started as a commissioner in January 2024, I have experienced or witnessed several IT-related and communications-related matters of concern. Spear phishing emails, like the one we just got the report on. Spear phishing emails made to look like they'd come from me, made it to several city employees last year. Typically in organizations, cybersecurity countermeasures would prevent this from happening. When I asked the IT department what they were doing to prevent phishing attempts and targeted emails, they refused to explain. Last year, City Hall suffered a complete network outage. The initial reason provided by IT was, and I quote, "The turnover of IT staff can increase network failure and cause other problems to happen because of different ideas, plans, and skills, and so on." When I expressed that personal turnover doesn't make networks go down, they said the issue was a firewall they didn't know they had, and when they found it, they discovered they did not have access to it. The IT department's proposal to fix the issue was to install fiber optic cable to replace the standard copper cable the city uses now as a means of future-proofing the system. On a separate occasion, while visiting the city manager, Brad Matkin, one of the IT guys gave Brad a spec sheet for a 48-port networking switch and told Brad he needed to buy it. When I asked what it was for, the IT guy replied that it was to replace a switch at City Hall, where there are fewer than 24 computers and IP telephones. When I asked why we needed to buy a much more expensive switch with twice as many ports as we could possibly use, the IT guy replied, again, that it was to future-proof the system. The password for the city's Wi-Fi in October of last year had not been changed in 3 years. It was changed in October last year, and it has not changed since. A more concerning issue is that joining a computer to the city's Wi-Fi network allows any user to access every printer on the city's network, which means non-authenticated users can access internal resources like printers in the Fort Scott City file server, which is not secure. When reviewing the budget, I discovered that the city of Fort Scott pays out more than $500,000 just in salaries and benefits for the county's 911 dispatch employees, our communications department. Bourbon County pays the city of Fort Scott $50,000 once each year as their contribution toward the city providing this service to the county, even though Kansas law requires that Bourbon County provide this service to all county residents. When I asked why Fort Scott taxpayers shoulder 95% of the cost of providing these services, I was told that the county could not provide them because they were broke. Out of concern for how the city's shared IT services spends city taxpayer money, I asked the IT department for a complete list of equipment by make, model, serial number, and various other details, annual software licenses, and a network topology diagram showing where all of the equipment is that this city has purchased. I never received this information. Instead, I received pushback, delays, and incomplete information. Instead of information, I recently received a belligerent email from the head of our county IT support team. This is what he sent me. Before addressing the current matter regarding IT services, I believe it's important to provide some professional context. I have worked in the IT field for over 30 years in both corporate and government settings, and have served the city of Fort Scott and the county in various capacities for more than 20 years. Throughout that time, I've remained committed to providing stable, secure, and efficient technology services to our community. As a former city commissioner, I am very familiar with the structure of municipal government in Kansas. The governing body handbook published by the Kansas League of Municipalities makes it clear that the duties of the city commissioner are limited to setting policy and approving budgets. The day-to-day operations of the city, including management of departments and staff, fall solely under the responsibility of the city manager. Outside of a meeting with a quorum, a commissioner is considered a private citizen and has no authority to direct staff, other than through the city manager. This distinction is critical to effective governance and is emphasized to any individual being considered for appointment to a vacant commission seat. So, the very first says, he would like to address a few concerns from an email that was shared with him. Says that first and foremost, and these were my words, we need to know what we have. His words, we provided this information last year during an executive session, and it was very detailed and thorough, including a comprehensive network diagram. We listed equipment down to the individual cell phone, switch, and even so deep as to include a PLC system. A spreadsheet was also provided with the current inventory as well. The city manager, my words, needs you to be able to provide the lifecycle replacement plan for every item in the city's inventory and anything the city purchases to add. His response, this has been provided in our 5-year comprehensive plan for IT upgrades to the city manager. My words, the city manager needs auditable data to adequately account for each item of the city's IT infrastructure because he and his designated employees need to be able to find every device in the city's inventory at any time without asking. His words, this statement is very misleading. What was actually said was we had no access to the Crawcan Network Operations Center as we were waiting for them to move this firewall and aggregation switch to our data center in the former jail. My words, it's not meant as a hit on him, but by his own admission, the city manager lacks the expertise needed to supervise or scrutinize the IT services. His words, this last one bothered me quite a bit. I have known Brad since high school, and in our professional lives, he has always been very knowledgeable in all he has done. Brad also shows a willingness to learn new things, and we have no problems bringing him up to speed on what we do and why we do it. Brad is a great manager, and I would venture to say one of the best this city has ever had. He is a strong leader and treats all the employees with dignity and respect. This alone is why we enjoy working with him on these issues. He is down to earth, realistic, and understands what he needs to run these operations. Brad is the boots on the ground in this operation and should be commended, not torn down. So, Shane says, I have maintained a strong record in my career. Over the past 20 years, the county has not suffered a major data loss or system failure, a record we work diligently to maintain. James and I provide the same standard of care to the city, and we do so at an exceptionally modest cost. The city reimburses only $35,000 annually for our services, an amount that wouldn't cover a third of the salary and benefits of a single full-time IT employee. Despite these constraints, we have continued to deliver reliable, responsive, and secure support. It's important to acknowledge that the primary reason of the city's information systems are in their current state is due to years of deferred maintenance, not any neglect or lack of competence on our part. We've already been working with Mr. Matkin on a thoughtful 5-year IT improvement plan to modernize infrastructure, reduce risk, and improve efficiency, all while remaining mindful of budget and resource limitations. Despite this progress, Commissioner Dancer continues to demand sensitive IT information in public forums, as you were both aware because he was addressing Mr. Matkin and the city attorney. This is not only inappropriate, but potentially unlawful under the Kansas Open Meetings Act, which explicitly protects discussions involving security meetings or measures, including public information systems, from being disclosed in open meetings, if doing so could jeopardize those systems. We already provided Commissioner Dancer with detailed information last year in executive session, the proper and secure forum for that discussion. Given his military background, I would expect a more responsible and informed approach to safeguarding infrastructure. We will continue to work cooperatively and transparently with the city manager on this endeavor. However, under no circumstances will we discuss sensitive system details in an open meeting. We believe in protecting the integrity of the city's data and infrastructure. Unlike Commissioner Dancer, we are not willing to compromise, take unnecessary risks, or leave anything to chance when it comes to the critical systems that power Fort Scott and serve its residents. At this time, we do not plan to attend the meeting scheduled for June 17th, as James will be out of town, and it has been made clear that Mr. Dancer still intends to try and bring these topics out publicly, which are protected. Neither James or myself will violate this or risk the safety and security of our citizens, our first responders, city offices, city information systems, water production facilities, or our sewage treatment facility. We feel that continued focused collaboration with the city manager is the most productive and secure way to move forward. That said, we would welcome the participation of the mayor in these discussions, should he wish to be involved. This meeting can be set up on the return of James from his much-needed break. Thank you for your time, your leadership, and your continued service to the city. Please feel free to reach out if there is any outstanding questions or further documentation needed. On a side note, Commissioner Tracy Dancer has exhibited ongoing personal issues with City Manager Brad Matkin and me, creating a tense and unproductive working environment. Rather than addressing matters through appropriate professional channels, his behavior has crossed into the realm of personal animosity, which is not only unprofessional but also borders on harassment. These actions undermine the integrity of our city and form of governance and hinder our ability to effectively serve the community. This situation requires immediate attention to ensure that professional standards are upheld and that a respectful, collaborative atmosphere is restored. I've known Brad for over 35 years and have utmost confidence in his ability to lead this city and work with us to bring the city information systems to a place they should have been 10 years ago. The only person who has not been briefed on this information is Commissioner Catherine, and we are meeting with her to go over this information that was provided last year to the other sitting commissioners. We will discuss the 5-year plan as well as our infrastructure and what we are planning to do to improve and protect it. Okay. In reading all of this, I am not addressing the people in this room. I'm not addressing the city employees, the city attorney, the city manager, or my fellow commissioners. I'm addressing the taxpayers in the city who are watching these commission meetings. A city employee or contract employee must not be allowed to determine that the elected members of this governing body lack the requisite clearance to view non-proprietary city data about city property, city equipment, things that your money buys, that this city is accountable for. In the interest of full transparency, I am requesting that my fellow commissioners direct the city manager to have the contracted IT support team provide all of the information I have requested before the next city commission meeting so this governing body can consider it as we quickly approach the FY26 budget planning cycle.
Thank you.
I'm still asking.
Oh, okay, right now.
While I respect what you have to say there, Commissioner Dancer, I believe that was entirely unnecessary as the email from which it came. Those are my commissioner comments.
Okay.
I want to cut off Matthew because he hasn't had an opportunity yet. May I say something? Okay. I have watched this kind of go back and forth since I started on this commission, and I've told Brad, Commissioner Dancer, sorry, has the, has a level of expertise that he's offering to the city free, as any of us do. And our city manager knows that I respect him, and I do not at any point question how he manages. Having gone back over what Commissioner Dancer was asking for, which was what I saw, was a list of every piece of equipment, the software, that the licensing, when it would be expiring, basically when things would be going obsolete. And my understanding of this is that knowing every piece of equipment, every license, the system details, remote access, that's something that not only insurers have to know, but we have to know as part of budgeting. And I am missing some piece of evidence. I feel like there's got to have been something I have missed. Because what I've seen, in the one thing I've seen for what he asked for, is inventory, which we have a fiduciary duty to know about when making budgetary decisions. Is there some, but I know that our city manager is an incredibly reasonable person, and but it seems more like this has always been as if we are trying to micromanage how you manage the IT department. So what have I missed? And it sounds like I'm really wanting to know, what did I miss that went from being asked for an inventory list but it's overstepping? Where am I missing that? Because that's got to be something missing.
Yeah, at no time did I request anything about security infrastructure, security configuration, access, none of it. Inventory is the very first step any IT professional in security has to perform so that you know how many nodes you have to protect.
So,
pretty simple.
And I mean, so Brad, if I might ask if you could help me understand, I really do want to understand.
Jimmy did a list. Was it something?
It was incomplete.
Okay.
Was it something that NASA needs? No. But it was a list. And I have it in my office. And it has everything that we have.
So, so is it all of because I've seen something that was a list of like all of our laptops and basically, but was there, like, when do they go obsolete? When does that licensing run out? Is that, I mean, I guess
I'd
I'm
have to
trying
get them.
understand.
I'm not sure. I haven't looked at it lately.
Because, I mean, I'm just asking, because if I was to get a list and say we had, 40 laptops and some of them are running Windows 10 or something, I wouldn't know when it's going to.
We know when they're going to be obsolete, yes.
So
and it's on the budget.
Okay. And so the thing is like, that's what I was thinking we were asking for, so I'm not, in the interest of being peacekeeping, but also I would like for two people that I respect and care about to come to some sort of agreement here so we quit having this tension, if at all possible. And because what I've seen is that he has asked for was reasonable in the sense that it would be what we have to determine budgetary, issues.
They showed you what you need for
It
budget.
doesn't have to
They
do
they
with
showed you
budgetary
that.
issues. I know what Commissioner Dancer wants because the
do?
very company I work for has the same thing you're wanting. But for $30,000 a year, I mean, sure, let's see what they'll give us. You're not going to get what you want. That's
Why would we employ a service that doesn't give us what we want?
I don't want to reveal what was talked about in executive sessions, but there's an interconnectedness that we can't explain to the public.
Well, I mean, there was, the position was that there's security and obscurity, and we don't have to tell you what we have, and you can't make us, which is kind of the gist of, this long-winded email.
Okay, I think we're obviously not going to settle this tonight. I just wanted to kind of throw that out there that I still feel like I've got to have missed something because it's always felt like there's been a pushback as if, and I've heard other people say, this is overstepping, this is coming into interfering with the city operations.
Now,
and
I do agree with Commissioner Dancer that he has a right to explore, ask questions when it comes to making policy as he's done. And I do think it was wrong of Mr. Walker to have unprofessionally said what he said in that email. But sometimes two wrongs don't make a right. And that could have been my name on there, and I wouldn't have called him out like that. But
I feel like the best resolution is to have a very long, unfortunate executive session in which the IT department is a part of, so that we can go over these issues and we can all meet face to face, find out exactly because I agree with what Commissioner Dancer's saying about needing some of the information, but I can also agree with Mr. Walker that some of that information, as Commissioner Olson has just said, is not information that the public at large needs to know about because it will compromise certain systems. Now, the information still needs to be provided to the commission as a whole. That's why my suggestion is that we have some kind of executive session where we can hash these things out and get it taken care of.
What's the difference between IT, Public Works, IT, wastewater? You guys don't ask me for inventory on their stuff.
Well, we don't have a public works expert. I
the
guess.
difference in my
Well, that doesn't matter. I mean, he knows roads. You just
the
called
life
out
cycle?
everybody that had expertise.
I have no knowledge of the life cycle of an asphalt roller.
But you know what? That's what we have staff for. That's what I have staff for. That's why I use my staff to create the budget.
Yeah.
That's why I use my staff to help me with Ben Hart to where we keep our budget good. And since I've been here, the budget has been very good. And it's not going to change. Don't shake your head, because it has been very good.
Brad, I've about had it with you telling me what to do. Honest to God.
Really?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you seem to be mistaken on what your role is here.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's your guys'
This
decision.
commission is the governing body of the city. You are the employee.
Then treat me like a good employee then. Treat me like a good employee, Commissioner Dancer. Because I've heard what you've said to the public about me. I've heard what you said to other commissioners about me, and that's fine. I'm going to continue doing the best I can for the city of Fort Scott, because that's where I'm from, and that's what I love.
Oh, yeah, and you made it very clear that I'm not from here. I get it.
I don't even know where you're from, so that doesn't really
Okay.
matter to me.
All right, we're getting off topic
But I'm
here.
just telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand, and I the thing is that everyone is coming at this from a point of caring. It's just different perspectives, and I concur with Commissioner Wells' suggestion that we have this, probably very extended Executive session, I do not want to be in this chair the night that we do this. I think I'm gone for a personal record for how long a meeting is going to be. But
I'll make the executive session happen next meeting,
okay.
July 1st.
That would be great, because I have to believe that intelligent, passionate people, are going to be able to come to some sort of consensus. I don't like how this is, and I want to have faith in us that we can do it. All right, please, Commissioner Wells. I'm begging you.
In the interest of brevity, my one thing that I was going to ask for, and I'll leave everything else till another time, was I still would like to see a copy of the concessions agreement or the franchise agreement that we have with Evergy. In particular, I'm looking for the concessions agreement that we would have originally signed with them probably 40 or 50 years ago at this point on purchase of their electricity. May have been KG&E back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But I would very much like to take a look at the concessions agreement that we signed off on when we agreed to start purchasing their electricity.
All right.
Please and thank you.
Anything else? Go ahead.
No, I'm good. I think that we can all come together, express ourselves, and do what's best for the citizens of Fort Scott. I believe that that is possible, regardless of things that might have been said so far this evening. I've been the same way occasionally. You get upset, you get heated, but I think all of us love this town. We love the people of this town, and our hearts really are to do what's best for this town. So God bless you all for your time, for your desire, for your willingness to serve. God bless you, Brad. God bless all the guys here at the city and the gals, ladies, that work so diligently and hard for our citizens. And may God bless Fort Scott and keep us safe this evening.
Thank you, Matthew.
All right, if we have nothing else, I would, Tim. Oh, sorry, Tim. Wake up. It's your turn. Do you have any comments?
I'm
Do you have any comments, Mr. Commissioner Van Hickey?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Do you have?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, first of all, I am a little disappointed by the conversations that were had during comments. It's unfortunate. I hope that none of us ever have to feel. I try and keep my credentials and my experiences out of it and work with the city management because, in my opinion, as one commissioner, when you read the ordinance, that's what we're directed to do. I know Matthew knows about streets and Tracy knows about HR and IT and all this other stuff, and we should be able to ask questions of it. The bottom line fact is you can be a high school dropout and be a city commissioner. That's just the way the ordinance is written. So, in my opinion, I'll work with the city manager. There's been times him and I have disagreed. I think he's doing a very good job. He's addressed concerns I've had, and I applaud commissioners that have their concerns that they present to him. But I'm hoping going forward that we can kind of check which lane we're in, and that's all of us, to make sure that the passions that we may have or the experiences that we may have, that we're working the best way possible with the city. And I'll leave that at that. With that said, I had a couple of things. First and foremost, I wanted to thank all the folks from the Good Old Days Committee that came out and set up. I want to thank the city staff and the first responders that supported Good Old Days, the vendors and the citizens that came out for it, not only for Good Old Days, but some of the other activities that were going on in town that weekend. True community spirit. I also want to thank very much, well, not thank, but recognize the 250th anniversary of the Army. Congratulations to you, Commissioner Dancer, for being a part of that organization. And if any of you watched the
Thank you,
parade, I think one of the coolest comments that was made was when they were commentating on the parade, that one of the first units that walked past the review stand was the Old Guard. And they actually called out the Old Guard established by General Winfield Scott. So that's something we can all hang our hats on. And I guess I'll say tongue in cheek, with no harm intended, I will work harder so that next time one of the commissioners walks around the table and brings up something that each one of us brings to the commission, I might have something that might be included as well. So, with that said.
You have pretty good sarcasm.
What's that?
I said, you have pretty good sarcasm, Commissioner.
Yeah. Hey, I'm smiling. Like I said, this stuff here I know is not all the time, or shouldn't be personal. I think Matthew made a great point. I had a vote tonight I was passionate about, and I lost 4-1. You know what? I made my point. I move on. That's how it goes. So with that said, I hope you all have a great evening and stay safe with the storms coming in, and look forward to our next meeting.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I would move to adjourn.
I will second.
Tracy Dancer,
Yes.
Catherine Salisbury,
Yes.
Bill Olson,
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.